And hello, everybody. It is Thursday evening. We are back at Trusty Huckster Mercantile for what is going to be a little bit different tonight. We are not doing a technical live sale. We're going to do a live chat because I'll be perfectly honest, I'm struggling in this temporary time slot as I do the late night. The sales have just been a little weird. I don't have any interest in staying up for 3 hours to do anything. I still have to work in the morning, so we're just going to keep things simple tonight and just hang out, have fun. I've got Katie going to keep me honest still, and we're just gonna have some fun. See who's in the chat tonight, and just talk some topics. Not going to be political, not going to be anything edgy. We're just going to see who's out there and who wants to chat. So, how you doing tonight, Katie?
I'm doing fabulous, Patrick, and I'm so excited to be a part of this chat. And I have my trunk down elephant.
You absolutely. The trunk down elephant looks fantastic. You are absolutely rocking the purple. I don't know if Tiger's in the chat tonight, but he will absolutely love your purple. I love your purple. I actually, as we've been planning duo dives, those trunk down elephant brooches were made by a company called Laughing Frog Studio. And the woman who runs it, she still is. She is the mother of a school friend of my daughter. So that's how we know her. And so she has now gone into full-time vintage jewelry making. Well, what is it called? Upcycling, I guess. So she takes vintage flatware and turns it into jewelry. She has necklaces, rings, and she had done that brooch as a necklace. And I had said, well, because then you can see it's a fork. And so I asked, I said, well, do you do it as a brooch? And her exact words were, well, why would I do it as a brooch? Nobody buys brooches. I'm like, oh, no. Let me introduce you to the concept of hashtag bring back the brooch. And she did a video on her channel when she made so I custom ordered them. She made one for me and one for Katie. And she did a little video showing them. And she said it was super popular and people wanted the brooch. So I'm like, yep. See, you never assume, you're just, there's a market out there.
Brooches are coming back and people
absolutely, especially when they look that cool.
Yeah.
So somebody was asking, I think it was on one of your chats, Katie, you've done some videos on your brooch collection, but I don't think I've ever heard you give an estimate of how many you have.
Oh, that's a good question.
And I truly wouldn't even know where to guess. So I'm like, do you know?
I can tell you I have 4 mealy cases of vintage brooches. So they're those jewelry cases with the leatherette. I have a small one about this size for my holiday brooches. So that's just holiday. Then I have a large case. It's wide, about this big, filled to the brim. And then I have 2 small-ish, but they're more medium-sized cases. So probably close to 120. If I had to guess. So yes.
120. All right. So Tim, do you have any brooches? Because I don't consider myself owning brooches. I know Daniel gets into the bring back the brooch, and bless him. I really have no interest in wearing them as brooches, but I have always had pins and little pin backs and badges and things. I had a jean jacket in college that ended up getting stolen. But the jean jacket was covered with Soviet era pins and medals and Hard Rock Cafe buttons, like just all kinds of stuff. Unfortunately, I no longer have that. So I've started getting into, since when I'm on Katie's channel, I will wear a hat. I don't wear them on my own, but I will wear them in honor of Katie's channel. And so I've started, actually still have the one I wore last night. I've started wearing the pins. I don't think I would refer to it as a brooch, but I will start wearing the pins on the side of the hats. So I'm bringing back the hat pin. Katie can bring back the brooch. So that is my attempt. So I don't know if Tim has, Teofane, Tech of the Body Snatchers, if you've got any brooches. So let's see. Tim does an authentic. A jet morning brooch. Fantastic.
That's cool.
And keeping in a jewelry casket, which in and of itself is cool by itself. Yeah. So let's see who else we got joining in. We got Nate coming in from New Zealand. Sorrowful that we're not doing a sale because he just loves to be able to manage me.
I know, Nate is so great.
We'll all say hi to Nate and appreciate Nate hanging out with us. We've got Peterson in the chat tonight. And we've already said hi to Tim. Oh, so Catherine is saying she is way too many. If I count, she'll probably be embarrassed. All right, Catherine, so this ends up being a question. So what did you call your cases? I don't think I've heard that term before. What did you say they're in?
And I'm probably mispronouncing the company name, but they're MELE. Melly, Mel, I don't
Are they
know.
modern or are they vintage?
No, they're vintage 1950s,
Okay.
a brand that made those leatherette jewelry boxes. In fact, I think you can find advertisements for them in old like Sears catalogs and
And is it
other
like
types.
are they like the hard separations between, like there's like a little cubby, like a bunch
Yeah,
of little cubbies?
they're all different. The big mealy case I have is similar to the one my grandma had. So it lifts up and it's got the mirror, traditional mirror inside, and then two little folding cubbies, and then the kind of faux velvet. Maybe it is real velvet, but I think it's more like a faux velvet. And then it pulls out there. So there's a drawer with a bunch of little cubbies, and then the bottom one has a big drawer with three longer cubbies. Now,
Okay.
the other ones I have actually fold up and they've got the little cubbies on the side, a big open space, and then the spots for rings. And then there's another one that folds up and it's got a little small little like bar that comes with the crushed velvet, and then the bottom's just open. So they're all different configurations, but they're hard. And then they have like the little gold designs around the outside, but they're leatherette. Some are red, black, blue. The insides come in like a pink, a crushed velvety pink with the starburst. I've got one that's
Oh,
like
nice.
a light blue. So they come in all different designs.
Hi, Louie.
Yeah, Louie's going a little crazy. She's in the kennel because I've got all my live sale orders out, spread out all over the kitchen, and I don't want her to get into all of the packing material. So she's there, and she's like, "I want out."
So I asked that because Catherine is talking about her. So I'm curious what Catherine, how Catherine either stores or displays hers. But then Sheila popped in. So she's saying she's collecting brooches to make a jeweled Christmas tree. Oh, a picture on black velvet. So, okay. So I've seen those before. So when you make something like that, or when you make, I've seen them where they go on, like I've seen them where like the mannequin shapes, and then you do you end up, and this is for Sheila and then for anybody else who also has those, do you end up wearing them? Like, do you pull from the display to wear them, or do you create, like, say, the Christmas tree one and everything's in a perfect form? Do you then never touch it because that would screw up the shape? Do you have any of yours, quote unquote, on display, Katie? Like, are they framed? Are they anywhere that in a ephemera bowl, a jewel bowl?
That's a good question. I do actually have some of my more expensive brooches. Any of my Weiss pieces or brooches that have the cabochons or that have something special to them that I don't want to get damaged, I will put them out in little dishes on top of the jewelry boxes. And in fact, Dolores from Miss Damn Jewelry sent me a little Limoges gold dish that's like about yay big. I've got two in there. And then I've got some Wedgwood. Patrick sent me a beautiful Wedgwood piece that has one of my brooches in it. And then I've got another dresser caddy. So I've got the little kangaroo. Yeah, Kevin the kangaroo does not hold my wallet, my rings. He holds my brooches. That's what Kevin does.
Now, do you find yourself wearing the ones that are in those little jars on Kevin, or are they kind of, that's their display pays and you don't wear them as much?
No, I wear those a lot.
Okay.
I really like the Weiss ones that are crystal. And then, of course, my big honker starburst brooch that's pretty amazing. It's an Emmons that I wear as much as I can. But it's heavy, so some of those are pretty heavy, and they're pretty hard to put on a thinner shirt because they get all wonky.
So Kara's saying she has a bunch, but she's never counted them. Now she's curious. I don't mean to like get people upset or stressed.
Now I want to count mine.
I have several collections that I couldn't tell you how many I have either. But it does seem to a certain extent, it seems that the brooches are designed to kind of get in bulk. And it's just like, even what I'm finding at this point, I only have one blue hat, and technically it's been loaned to me specifically to wear on my shows. It's not even mine. It's like, if I'm going to wear a hat, I don't know. I think it's normal. I want the hat to kind of match what I'm wearing, and all of my hats are black. Well, not everything I wear is black. So I've got like the tan one that's straw. I don't have any true fedoras. I don't have any true Hamburgs or anything like that. Katie said she'll take me shopping at some point, and we will look for a true fedora. And I'm not sure I can pull off a fedora as well as she can. But
oh no, I think you can. And I've got
But it's
more.
fun to figure out like what to do with, like, it suddenly gives a purpose to the pins. I'm not going to wear them, so I can do something else with them.
Well, I have more hat pins coming your way, Patrick.
Oh, well, I did buy Patrick the Penguin. I felt I got back cornered into that one, but it was absolutely very cute penguin brooch that Katie sold on Dear Angela's vintage. No, yeah, Dear Angela's vintage sale this actually just earlier this week. And I just thought he was super cute. So Belinda Carroll was going after all of them. And so she and I actually ended up duking that one out. And I was trying to get, like, no, it's fine. You take it. She's like, no, you take it. Everyone's so freaking grateful and nice in the vintage
people are so nice.
Makes me sick. So I would be curious though, Kara, if you find out how many you have, because it's not even a competition. It ends up being at some point, like, what is the true, I think people said the true definition of a collection is 3. It's like when you only have 2. I'm not actually sure what they called 2. Like 2 is an accident and 3 is a collection. So it's like anything past 3.
Well, the thing with brooches is they're like chips. You can't just have one. And then you get one, and then you get another. And then before you know it, because they're so small for the most part, and they don't take up a ton of room, you suddenly have like a whole drawer full or a whole box full. And they're just so neat,
Well, and it's one of those cases too that it's also because they're so small that, like, my philosophy has always been, we're on a shrunken screen, but if people have watched my channel before, like, okay, I have a decorated stoneware collection. It's all 19th century. I've got a very specific aesthetic. It has drifted into the 2 side cabinets that are next to the piano. That's it. If I get another piece, I have to retire something out of my collection. And Katie has said multiple times when I've retired something, like I just recently had to retire a swung glass vase. And she's like, how do you do that? Like, how? And I'm like, it's a philosophy. It's just one of those cases, like, you know what? This is it. This is the space I'm going to give it. And it's not even that I'd rather, but it's like, it's more important to me to have quality over quantity. So I'd rather just say, you know what? I'm going to fill this space. I'm going to make sure the space looks as good as possible. And that means if something doesn't fit anymore, well, I'll make sure it goes to another good home somewhere. But with brooches, you can always find room for another brooch.
Yep. You can. And typewriter ribbon tins, because they're little. It's like you can keep adding those. That's a great little collection to start, because you don't need, they end up taking a lot of room, I'll be honest, once you get like a bunch of them. But they're great. Now, the trays are hard. I will say I do follow Patrick's philosophy on the Coca-Cola trays, because they made a whole line of Coca-Cola trays for the Mexican market. And if I started collecting those, good Lord, I'd have 3 walls this size, and I just can't. I don't have the room. So as much as I like those, I don't collect those. So I do limit myself in some collections. It has to be very specific.
Well, and it's funny, like, I didn't realize that Coca-Cola had a Mexican collection, but I learned last night, Katie hosted, if anyone missed it, Katie hosted My Vintage 1976, who also happens to be named Nate. He did a discussion on his Pyrex collection. I think vaguely I had heard of the company that made the British Pyrex. It was like J&J or JJ or something. It was like when he said it, I'm like, okay, I would never be able to say that, but I'm like, I think I've heard of that. But I had no idea that there was an Australian Pyrex and there was a New Zealand Pyrex. Like, that was, at some point, you've got to just, I am all for international. I am big about crossing boundaries. Like, my favorite collection is probably my Globe collection. Absolutely love international stuff. But at some point, Pyrex is not little. So I would see a very easy line to draw in the sand. Just like, hey, you know what? I'm sticking with Pyrex. I'm sticking with American Pyrex, and let the British collect the British and whatever, because how could you possibly? But even his approach was fascinating last night. For those who missed it. Now, admittedly, I know virtually nothing about Pyrex. I've only ever sold literally like 3 pieces of it, and none of them were particularly rare. But he made a comment last night. You remind me what it was, Katie. He was saying he sold one of his pieces because he needed room for something else, or he was like helping pay for something else. And he, like, there were people in the chat were like, you got rid of one of those? And it was fascinating because he's just like, well, I can't have everything. And so he's like, I got a really nice piece in. So instead of, like, in his case, he's like, instead of giving up a really crappy piece, which at this point he probably doesn't have crappy pieces, but he's like, I've got a really nice piece in. I'm going to put a really nice piece back out in the world. And I thought that was just a fantastic approach. Like I pretty much, and sometimes you can tell even when I do, shoots or whatever. I just did that video for your clear glass collab. You can scroll down my etagere. Well, the stuff on the last shelf, the bottom shelf, that's one step to retirement. Like one more piece. One more piece, and one of those babies is getting bumped because that's all the room I got. So
Nate said he had I think it was the Zodiac dish that he bought in the box, and he wanted the box, so then he sold the dish and kept the box. And that, I mean, amazing that he could do that. And obviously that funds some of his other Pyrex.
Oh, it was the UFO.
Oh, the UFO one.
It was a UFO, which I don't even know what that is. Literally do not even know what that is. But I think Jamie fainted in the chat from Mid-Century Modern or Mid-Century Wasted. She's like, wait, you got rid of one? So everyone's got a different approach. And when they take up that much space, it's got to be that much harder. I don't know if you saw this, Katie. I think you were tagged. Jamie from Mid-Century Wasted on her Instagram channel, she actually posted, she said by watching the duo dive last night, she was motivated to rearrange one of her cabinets and start focusing on quality over quantity and really highlighting some of the unique pieces that she had and really focusing on that. And that just warmed the cockles of my heart. I'm like, that I love when people say they're starting collections because of what we talk about, or they just approach their collection differently. So I was super, super happy to hear that.
Yeah, and she did a great job rearranging her display and really focusing on it. I thought it was excellent. But I love when that happens, when we do a duo dive or a triptych and someone either comes across something and they know what it is now because of the show, or they're starting a collection. It's great when you tag us and we get to see that.
Yeah, and that's absolutely anybody that does particularly if it's from a duo dive or even just something like maybe you saw us doing a haul video or maybe Katie sold it. We love hearing when people find it themselves or they saw it in the wild. And I'm totally guilty of that. After we did the duo dive, with the guy from the Netflix show, Bathtubs Over Broadway, the next time I went to a store, I went straight to the record bins and, Katie, block your ears. But normally I completely ignore the record bins because I don't know what I'm collecting. They're difficult for me to ship. I don't know enough about them. And I really don't have the interest of figuring out their first pressings or any of that kind of stuff. So it's like, hey, that's Katie's thing. I'm going to let her totally run total rampant with it. I totally sat down and I'm like flipping through and I'm like, oh God, I could totally see why Katie can go to a record store for hours and just be flipping. Cause all of a sudden you've got to look at every single piece where like, if you're at an event, if you're collecting, the larger stuff that I collect, you can pretty much just stand back, scan, and then moving on, you don't really take that much time to go through this tiny little piece.
Well, the thing with the records is people put the records back out of order. And I've found this so many times at record stores, antique stores. They might have them alphabetized, but some people come in, they're like, yeah, I don't really want this. And they stick it in another thing. So you'll be going through records and you're like, whoa, there's this really cool record. Oh, wait a minute. Why is this in J when it's like supposed to be, Jimmy Buffett or something? And, it's just fun. So you got to spend like all the time going through all the bins to see what you could find. And like the guy from Steve from Bathtubs Over Broadway, he's like, sometimes people don't know where to put those records. So they're in odd spots in the store. And I thought about that too. And I want to go back to that record store I did a video on where it's just like banker boxes full of vinyl, like piled up high and under tables. I'm like, somewhere in here, there must be one of those industrials.
So I'm trying to figure out, there's a comment here. Sheila is responding to Leanne B because they're stored without their box in a huge tote, but I can't figure out what's being stored.
No. Let's see. Oh, yes.
How do you know? What was it?
Well, Tim's saying that happens with postcards. You can't afford the time, but you need to go through them all. Yes.
Well, and I think the problem I had, I did go as Angela had mentioned, I was shopping with her at Thrift and Dollar. And even there, I only went through a couple stacks because they had so many, I couldn't dedicate all the time to it. But I did, before my daughter went back to grad school, I dragged her to a record store and I actually asked, where would you have something like that? And the problem was I used the term industrial because that was the term that Steve Young used during the duo dive. Well, he sent me to like the dance music section, and I had no concept why I was there. My 22-year-old daughter, she's like, "Well, industrial is a kind of like dance music." I'm like, "Oh, I guess I need to come up with another term." Like, so sometimes you just don't even know what to ask for. So even in our own duo dives, we're like, "Wait, what did I learn? What terms am I supposed to be using?"
Well, it's so
And so,
funny. After Patrick did the duo dive on the triptych on Abington pottery, I was talking with Christy from Tippy Wings Vintage. She went to an old house somewhere in Austin, I think. And she was showing us around on video and everything. And she's like, "Oh, there's a yellow toilet." I'm like, "That's Abington. There's an Abington pottery toilet." She's like, "Come again? Why are you telling me about toilets?" I'm like, "No, Patrick just talked about these."
let me share this useless knowledge that I just learned about colored toilets. So yes, you never know. So now if everyone can flash back to the deep dark ages when I was 21. For my 21st birthday, I went to a Violent Femmes concert and I was in the mosh pit. So
wow, Patrick, that is
do your
awesome.
night terrors on that tonight. So that was me. So I definitely keep the chat up. We're just having fun tonight. There's nothing really specific. I will say for anyone that's in here tonight, I'm not going to go completely off brand. If you want one of my mystery boxes, you can have one. Just tell me. So I've got a $25 mystery box and I got a $15 mystery pack. So $25 are like the bigger ones with nicer stuff in it. You pay for the shipping on top of the $25. The mini packs are $15. That includes shipping. It'll have about 12 to 15 items in there, mixture of some ephemera, but most of them are pre-packed, but there's some smalls and stuff in there. There's just non-breakable stuff. So it's a lot easier for me to ship. It's $15, $25. Anybody want one? You can have one. But I got my own mystery box, but it's not really a mystery box because I kind of knew this was coming. This came to me and I decided to open it tonight for a couple of reasons. One, I just picked it out, got it today. But this is coming to me as a gift. I was told that it was coming from Tim at Over the Years. And no, I'm sorry, Nate, that would be you. You were the one polishing the floor. I was the one.
Yeah.
I was probably drunk out of my mind because that was pretty much my entire early 20s. But yes, definitely not dusting, not sweeping.
That's you polishing your silver, Nate.
Exactly. That you've definitely confused me a little bit with yourself there, Nate. But anyway, Tim from Over the Years had mentioned that he had gotten this for me. And I decided to open it on air because first of all, if you're not familiar with Tim, Over the Years is it's Over the Years Collecting, I think is his Instagram. But then Over the Years is his YouTube channel. He does a fantastic job at packing. And I'm going to probably cut myself trying to get this open.
He does.
Because he does such a good job with packing.
When I got a bowl from him, I ordered I think it's Indiana glass, kind of looks Art Deco. It's like a little server for nuts and cheese and whatever. That took me, I kid you not, 30 minutes to unwrap. He wrapped it completely in bubble wrap. He did such a good job that he had it in big bubble and then down in a big box filled with even more packing material. So he is an excellent.
Yeah, anybody wants one, send me an email. The email, I kept my email address on the screen just in case. So send me an email. Let me know which one you want. Just basically say you want the $25, which is then plus tax, or you want the mini one, which is $15, which includes I'm sorry, not plus tax, plus shipping, or you want the $15 one, which is just $15 shipping included. I limit them. The $15 ones are limited one per household, at least per time, because if you buy more than one, you'll probably get some duplicates. So yeah, if you want one, I mean, I usually like to have people, try and claim them. This later night slot, we tend not to have as many people. And so there's been a couple of times where I didn't even sell as many as I thought I was going to sell. I want this to be fun. And if people aren't looking for them anymore, that's fine. I think people like my mystery boxes, but I mean, really, how many can you buy? And everyone is doing mystery boxes now. So I get it. So if you want one, I'm more than happy to give you one. And it'll still be fun. You just don't have to fight over it. So I'll give you, unless people go crazy, I'll give as many as you want. So I'm opening up. Sorry, Katie, let me put myself full screen.
No, that's okay. Absolutely.
So this one actually is slightly different. I can tell already because I don't think he normally uses newspaper, but maybe because this was a gift, he was a little bit cheaper. But he always does high quality boxes. I know it's breakable, so I'm going to take the packaging out. And I actually have a video. One time I did buy something from him, and I did an unboxing video. It was totally legit. I did an unboxing video, and I think my cold open was like, am I being punked? Because it was so well packed, I couldn't get it open. And he's doing it again. So he uses this like industrial strength bubble wrap, and then he just packaging tapes the crap out of it so that it's almost impossible to open. So that's good. It makes it totally great in the sense that it ships well, but it then also makes it really hard to open or really hard to reuse any of the packaging because I'm cutting it open. I just popped all the bubbles.
I love those, and that might be similar to what Tim uses, but it's the bubble mailer that has well, it's not a bubble mailer. It's the big bubble, but it's like a pouch basically. And I've gotten them before through Chewy uses them, and then several other like industrial type companies where you order things in bulk. And I always reuse those because it's amazing packing material if they're not taped. But Tim, I mean, his packing is just excellent. It would be very rare if something broke from Tim. In fact, I think it was Michelle, Emancipation 300, actually chucked one of his boxes out the window off the second story, and it landed on the floor outside on like concrete, and it survived. I mean, this piece of glass, it's absolutely amazing.
Somebody was asking a question. I don't know who J, A, and P are. Here you go. The $25 ones are a little bit harder for me to control. They do typically weigh around 3 pounds, sometimes 4 or 5. So you probably, I'll definitely keep those shipping under 15 if I'm shipping within the United States. If I'm shipping to Canada, it's obviously going to be more. I like to keep it to 10, but these boxes, I put more expensive things in them. So they tend to be a little bit larger, and they usually tend to be breakable. So there's more packing material in there. So it's really runs the gamut. If I'm shipping out of Chicago, so that makes a huge difference. If you're in the Midwest, I can ship 10 pounds to Wisconsin for like $8. So but if you're in California, like 2 pounds could end up being 15. So it really just depends. So I try and control it best I can, but with the $25 ones, it's a little bit harder because I still want them to be valuable. So like they're typically going to have 40 to 50 bucks worth of stuff in it. So if the shipping gets too much, I start feeling bad because I just, if I want people to have fun with it. So the $15 ones are way better off because it's $15 no matter where you're at because they're under a pound. And the people that have gotten them, I've had a lot of people buy them as gifts. And from what I've heard, people think they're fun. So I like doing them.
They are fun. And Patrick has in the Mega Mystery boxes, the Mint and Box Maxi Pads, which are a lot of fun.
Yeah, probably still about 15 left of those. So eventually those are going to run out. And we got to be able to reinvent. So this ended up being the kind of the overall packaging. He then used, so we had the paper kind of wrapping the whole thing. In the middle of it was the thick bubble. Then we had a small package with the small bubble. And then each piece is now wrapped in paper. So I'm going to mute myself again so that you guys don't hear the ripping paper. So we'll let Katie entertain you slightly.
Yeah, that paper is amazing. That craft paper is great. Patrick does a good job of packing. One of the things I like that Patrick does is he actually uses masking tape on some of the bubble wrap. That way it's easier to reuse, especially it's great if you need something down in the corners or on the sides of a box. And I actually recently discovered this amazing, I have it over here, but I can't reach it, but it's this giant roll of like green paper, and it's sort of made for masking. I guess when you're doing painting or certain techniques, you would use it, but it's a big round roll like this, and it's probably 6 by 6. So 6 across, and then you get like 1,000 feet of it. I don't know. It's a large roll. You can get it off of Amazon. It's by the Teko, Teko store. It is excellent. And you just tear it off the roller, cut it, wad it up. It works great for wrapping around brooches too. and then putting it in the box. And it's a very economical size roll. I ordered mine probably about 4 months ago, and I still have almost the whole roll. And I use a lot of it when I'm packing, because it's just great for, the kind of like that crate paper, craft paper, like Patrick just showed there. But it's excellent. So resellers, look for some things that aren't normally packing materials. Sometimes
That's true.
be good.
And also look for sources, because I actually will admit I get lucky. I'm in the Chicago suburbs, but I'm even luckier because the suburb that I'm in, there is a packing material company that's located here. And sometimes you can do this with newspaper print and things like that. So one of the things that I do, and I don't have my examples here, but I buy in very large rolls and I buy them new. One of them is the newsprint. So it's basically the same thing that your newspaper's on roughly. This is considered 30-pound weight. And then I also buy the true craft paper, which is the dark brown. So think of like the old butcher paper that you'd get your meat and stuff wrapped in. That is 50-pound. And so what I'll typically end up doing is something will get wrapped in the lighter weight paper, then get wrapped in the small bubble wrap, then either get wrapped in the big bubbles. I have a different type than Tim does, but I still have the 1/2-inch bubble. Either wrap in that, or I use the heavier craft paper. And where it comes in, and we're actually going to do a duo dive next month. We're going to do a duo dive on shipping. We're going to cover some of that, because there's a lot of misnomers out there. And one of the things, and even shippers, sometimes get confused by it. Usually, particularly if you're using a third-party shipper, the jumps in cost happen at the 1/2 pound mark. So if you're going to ship something for 2 pounds, 2 pounds usually is, so say it's like 2 pounds, 1 ounce. You will pay the same amount of money shipping something that's 2 pounds, 1 ounce as you will for something that's 2 pounds, 8 ounces. It's not until you hit 2 pounds, 9 ounces that you jump to the next weight. And why that makes a difference is, so I'll weigh a box before I go to finish with the filler. And if I'm coming up to the threshold, I'll use the bubble wrap to fill the rest of the gap so that it doesn't add the weight. But if I'm already to that next level, I will use that heavy craft paper, because I think it does a really good job of insulating, and it's cheaper for me, but it's still going to be the same cost when I go to ship it. So, it's like people sometimes get really bent at, oh, I'm going to control this. And, oh, it was going to be 2 pounds, 5 ounces. And I got it down to 2 pounds, 2 ounces. That's the same price. Like, that doesn't make a difference. So you need to know where the thresholds are. And then also when you get into sizes of boxes, we'll get into some of that. Like at some point, if you could have a 2 pound box or a 2 pound package, but if that package is 24 inches by 28 inches by 12 inches, you're still going to pay a fortune, because it's big. It's, it's going to go by size. So yes, and it is. It's like wrapping presents, and everyone does it slightly differently. At no point do I ever hold myself up as this is the way you should do it. But I do talk about sometimes the way I do it, because like the one thing that I've always done, why do I why do I use masking tape on the bubble wrap? Not because, yes, I want people to reuse it if that's what they choose to do, more because I hate opening packages that are wrapped in packaging tape. Like, I've actually broken something that was so wrapped up in bubble wrap that when I was trying to cut it open, I snapped the stem. And so it's like, okay, you just made it cross 1,000 miles to get it to me, but then I couldn't open the damn thing. Like, it is all part of the package. So there's always going to be tricks, and some people do it well and some people do it poorly. During early parts of COVID, if you haven't seen, I've got a playlist on my channel that they're unboxing videos. There's a cold open of it, which I did kind of like as a silent, like high speed film. And it showcases me opening a bubble mailer that had a porcelain mug shipped in it. It didn't arrive in one piece. It was a 60-year-old porcelain mug, and it died. And because some idiot seller put it in a bubble mailer. And it's like, no, you can't do that. It's going to break. And then we'll talk about this in the duo dive. I had a piece of porcelain shipped to me media mail. No. So
don't do that.
Yeah, well, don't do that. So people can get away with a lot of stuff, but that's Michelle saying one was 5 pounds, the other was 2. Yeah, depending on where you're shipping, it's all a combination, and it's all about zones. The really nice thing that for a lot of people that don't do the shipping, but you might have noticed it, you might be getting more shipments via UPS. Pirate Ship, which is a major kind of a third-party seller a lot of us use, just I think it was right before Christmas. It hasn't been for that long. They introduced UPS as suddenly an option. And so for those really big packages, UPS is a much more attractive option. And as a reseller, it's like it was always an option, but you couldn't get the discounts as easily, and it just wasn't as easy to do. Now it's super simple. It's still a pain for me to drop them off at the UPS store, but in some cases, the savings are sizable. So,
well, our UPS store is so nice. The guy that owns it takes all of my USPS packages too, because the guy comes anyway to get, their regular mail. So I just drop everything off now at the UPS store when I have a live sale, because a lot of my packages end up going UPS now because Pirate Ship has an option and it's 10 times cheaper. And it's just great, but they will take everything for me. So I don't have to hassle with the post office anymore. It's wonderful. I did receive a piece of Wedgwood in a bubble mailer, and no, it did not survive. That was very sad.
And sometimes people can get creative. I've had some things that are shipped in egg cartons are actually a relatively popular one. Sometimes it's just like they literally, particularly if you're buying something relatively large, it could be like, what did you empty your garage? Because there's just weird stuff in here, like the tubes from a paper towel roll and egg cartons and newsprint and some things are really heavy. Like, oh, this would have added a lot of weight. Like, why did you use this? So in some cases for people that are doing shipping resale full time, if you're trying to ship 100 shipments out in a day, you may just be going for whatever you can grab. So it's like I just like Leanne is saying, I'm also small potatoes. Like what I ship is very small. The bulk of what I sell right now is through my live sales, which I'm not even doing tonight. So because I have a full-time job, like this is a side hustle for me. For some people, it's their full-time job. So they need to chase every dollar they can, and they're entitled to do that. But it's one of those cases, and I went through this with a lot of the shipping unboxing videos that I did. I bought a lot of stuff really just to compare. Like, okay, I did a couple of videos where I'm like, okay, I just ordered 3 mugs. Let's compare how these 3 mugs were shipped from 3 different sellers. And, in some cases I would name the seller if they did a really good job. I never named the sellers that did a bad job. That wasn't my
like
place.
The woman with the cat pee.
Yeah, the woman with the cat pee in the packing material. Like I didn't call her out, although she knew I was talking about her and she contacted me. But it is what it is, so it's like, I'm trying to be respectful, but it's like, we can all learn from each other, and I used a lot of things that I learned from doing those videos. I now use myself. So I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. And one of the things that I do, a lot of people have commented about, they get things for free as much as they can. I found that I feel much saner because I am doing this kind of on the side. I want to know exactly what size boxes I have available. So I buy brand new boxes. I buy new material. I buy all of that stuff so that I know when I'm running out, I know when to reorder it. It's just, to me, it is definitely more expensive. I mean, the last time I ordered from the packing store, I think it was over $200, and that was just for some boxes, some of the newsprint, the butcher paper. It adds up. And now I may have it for several months, but you start figuring out, well, how much does that cost per shipment? There's a cost to it, but it's also my mental health is priceless. And yep. I've been in a situation where I'm like, I don't have a box the right size for this, or I'm about to put this tiny little item in a massive box because it's all I have, and it's going to cost the buyer more money because I don't have the right size box. So
I like to stock new boxes too, Patrick. I'm with you on that. The only boxes I really reuse is Chewy boxes, because Chewy boxes, I don't know what it is with their shipments, but their boxes are like an extra thick cardboard. And unless they're like really battered, which I've never had one that has been that way, they are excellent. And they're kind of a weird size for some of the stuff that I get, like the heartworm medication for Louis and things that come in it. So they're great for these odd sized books and other items that don't normally fit in a regular box. So I do save those. And then any record mailer I get, I know people were asking me about shipping records, and I really like those record mailers, but most resellers aren't stocking those unless they deal in vinyl. So I don't find them very easily. I know you can buy them through a Uline and other places, but every record mailer I get in, if it's in good condition, I save it in case I need to send out a record, or I'm doing VCLT, which is Vinyl Community Love Train, which is like equivalent to friend mail. But it's just fantastic.
And one of the things, and we may cover this, I hadn't thought about it, but we may cover this when we do our duo dive. We've got a guest that'll be helping us on it. It's like the Chewy boxes. Typically, you'll find something on the bottom. They're considered double wall, and you can buy double wall boxes. They tend to be significantly more expensive, and then also they weigh a lot more. So if you have a 12 by 12 by 12, which is typically the largest standard size you would ever want to use, once you go beyond 12 inches in any dimension, you start running into cost up charges. But a 12 by 12 by 12 single wall box versus double, it's not going to weigh twice as much, but it's going to weigh quite a bit more. And so you end up getting, like, some individual boxes could weigh a pound all by themselves. So depending on what you're shipping, it can add quite a bit to the cost. And I get, it's always a balancing act, whether I use a small box or if I can try and do a box in bag or something along those lines for smaller items. And it's the cost to the seller or to the buyer, but it's also the cost to me. Those bags cost money, the boxes cost money, like trying to figure out what the most you can. I actually even printed up, little cards that say, if I'm using repurposed materials or recycled materials, I put a little card in there because I actually like the fact that I use new materials. And so anytime somebody buys from me for the first time, I just had to break that rule because they bought a $300 punch bowl that I didn't have a big enough box for it. And the packing material, I had to use recycled material. But usually the first time somebody buys from me, I will make sure it's all with new boxes, it's all new pack material so that they have a nice experience. I do not tie things with a pretty bow. I don't attach package stoppers. And I love the people that do that. I question their sanity to a small amount, but if that's what makes you happy, like Misty is like 100% vocal about it. She's like, I know it's crazy, but it makes her happy. So if she's happy, making a pretty bow or using pretty tissue paper, that is fantastic. That does not make me happy. But I do like it looking nice. I do like it leaving, when it's going out, it's going to get banged up while it's shipped. But I do like the fact that when you open it, that paper's crisp, that the bubble wrap is new and all that kind of stuff. But everyone's got different focuses. But so sometimes I do use recycled material. And I'll be honest, in some cases, it's like, okay, I just sold something for $5. I'm not making any money on this, so I'm not putting $2 worth of shipping material into it. It's going to get recycled. So, but I do a little card.
I do like wrapping things up. I know that there's different philosophies on that, and it's not for everyone because it does take up a lot of time. I mean, I could ship out my packages way faster if I didn't do the wrapping and the wax seal. But I have found a wax seal glue gun, which I will tell you makes a whole world of difference because you can go through that a lot faster when you have the glue instead of melting the wax that takes forever and a year. You got the glue gun that just squirts the wax out. It's great. But I love kind of the enjoyment of wrapping and getting the tissue paper perfect and, doing the ribbon. And I love having custom inserts like Patrick has. He's got those little neat cards that go in the box. I just think that adds something extra, and it's branding too. So when people get the item, they know who it's coming from. And if they do any type of unboxing or Instagram promotion, it does help you. Not really that's 100% why you do it, but you make the customer happy. But it also is good promotion for you and your business, when people take a picture and you've got your little custom card in there, so they know, like, okay, this is coming from Vintage and Vinyl.
Well, it's even if it's not like, yes, it's great if people do, like, if you do post pictures on Instagram or you do an unboxing video, those are all fantastic. And yes, the marketing is part of it. But there's been times when I've been as a buyer, I'll receive something. And there are cases where I typically go on buying sprees that I'll just suddenly just like, I haven't bought any vintage menus lately. I'm going to go buy some menus, and I will buy 3 or 4 or 5 different menus from 3 or 4 or 5 different sellers. I'll then receive it. I've received shipments more often than not. I would definitely say more than 50% of the time, I receive a shipment that has no indication of where this thing came from. So when I open it up, whether it's good or bad, I can't even at a glance give anybody credit. So whether I'm doing a unboxing video or if I'm just like, I really like this, or this was, sometimes it is, particularly when you're dealing with ephemera, it was packaged really well. And I'm like, okay, I want to remember who this was, because now the next time I go to order, because then there's been the flip side. I've received, I've received like a $25 menu, and they put it in just a regular envelope, and it was all folded up. And I'm like, dude, why did you do this? And so then it's like, okay, I'm not going to buy from you again, because you don't treat what you're selling, you don't treat it with respect. If you don't put anything in there, even if it's just like the copy of the eBay receipt or whatever, it's unfortunate, but I would say it's very common. So every order that I ship out, and even because sometimes I'm not 100% sure, because sometimes eBay names are different than YouTube names, but if it's an eBay sell, unless I know for sure it's somebody I've sold to before, I will make sure they get one of my thank you cards, but then I also make sure they get one of my Trusty Huckster Mercantile coasters. Now, 90% of these customers are like, who is this? Why did they give me a coaster? But if I'm going to give a package topper, I'm going to give a package topper that's branded to me, and I have a thing for coasters. So why wouldn't I hand out a coaster? So it's something I do like doing, but.
Yeah. And I find, that when you order from sellers, particularly on eBay, because I will do this with certain advertising pieces, it's nice to know what seller it is you're buying from, so you can save it again.
I'd flip you off, Nate, if it weren't like a PG channel. And just for that, I'm not going to show you. All right, Nate can't see this; everyone else can. So this is what I this is what I unpacked. So this is what this is what Tim sent me, and Nate's being a jerk about. So these were deep dive triptych that Katie and I and Nate had done on Picard all over gold. I do have a collection of all over gold, and these are marked Picard. I do not collect the kitchen or the dining collections, but this is super kind of him to do this. And what I am going to do, and I've started playing around with this because I saw this one other time. These are perfect ones to do this with. The center hole is there. I'm going to get a very long fringe tassel, and you feed the tassel up through the bottom, bring it up to the top, you make the hoop, and it becomes a Christmas ornament. And it is the salt shaker, and you do this with many different shapes, but it's better when the hole is in the middle. But the gold one looks fantastic. So I'm going to keep this and turn it into a Christmas ornament, and have the different colored tassels coming out the bottom.
I like that.
So that was super kind. He was at a flea market. Particularly the salt and pepper shakers are fairly common because, 50s, 60s, people wanted their formal dining, had the gold trim. So these were great wedding presents. These were just one of those cases that particularly, these aren't quite small enough to be individual, but you end up with a lot of small salt and pepper shakers because you could have multiples on a table at any given time. So you can usually pick these up for relatively inexpensively. Like I said, I don't typically collect these. I don't really like collecting the sugars and the creamers. A vendor or a seller that I've worked with a lot, he knew I would never with Picard, but he was watching my channel, and he came to me. He's like, "Oh my God, I saw that you collect Picard. I was at this, I was at one of my sources, and I found this great, and it was a mustard pot, and I felt super guilty because I'm like, that is so kind of you to think to buy something for me. I don't want a mustard pot."
Where are you going to put the mustard pot?
Yeah, it's like these things go in my living room. So it's like to sit there with like a whole thing of creamer and sugar and coffee pots and all these dining utensils, dining accoutrement. That's not what I'm looking for. I want, like, if the bowl or a tray, which technically could be on the dining, that's fine. But that's what I want. I want like the trays and the bowls because I use them as underplates to my other collections. And they look fantastic. So super nice of Tim, super well packaged as always. And if you do not follow Tim at Over the Years, screw Nate. Tim is better than Nate tonight. So make sure you follow Tim on Over the Years. So
Nate.
Yes, everyone loves your wax stamp. That's one of the cases with Katie. Every time I get a package that has a wax stamp, I'm like, man, this woman has too much free time. And I know you don't. You do not have free time. And you're sitting here doing this absolutely amazing extra step. So if you don't know what we're talking about, buy from Katie at her next sale, and you will get a wax seal put onto it.
Yep. I usually try to put them on the cards. But what I've started doing now, because I write a note on the back, is I find that this little open space is kind of perfect for the wax seal. So I've been adding that to the front now as opposed to the back. But everyone will get a wax seal with the little cards.
Excellent. No, this is just I had a bad day at work, so maybe that's what adds to this. So who knows? But there we go. So Kara's asking. I actually don't know the question. I think I've only ever seen one color. So do you have different colors of wax?
I just have the red. Now let me show you, because it's right here. What I found is excellent is this here. So if you are doing any type of wax sealing, this is amazing. So it's a wax seal glue gun. Now these are dual temp. This one is particularly made for the wax because it has this little extra point, which helps it from dripping, and you get more of a control when you're doing your circle. And you can buy wax like this in a package from Amazon. And I like the red. So the red is my favorite. So I get the red. I like the red that's not solid red. It's kind of like shimmery. And then there's a website I use called, it's something like Wax Seal. It's a USA. If you search for custom made wax seals, it comes up on Google. It's a wax seal company that's made in the USA. They're a small little family owned business. And this is a fabulous little thing. Nate.
I miss nothing. I don't have to run a sale tonight, so I can watch the chats. So you said that that the tip was different, and you said it's different temperature. So does the wax then melt at a different temperature than the glue?
Yes. If you use, because this one does high and low. Now, what I found is if you use the high heat, this almost turns the wax so melted into a puddle that when you go to stamp it, the stamper gets stuck to it, and it becomes like this messy, sticky glue, and then it pulls apart. And actually, when I was packing today, I didn't realize, but the first package I did, I had it on high. I was like, why am I having trouble with this? Because I've never had issues. And I'm trying to pull the wax up, and the thing's stuck to it, and then the seal's breaking, and it actually tore the package. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, because we got it on really high heat. So if you do it on low heat, it's better because it pours perfectly. And then when you stamp it, it just releases beautifully. But yes, you can get custom wax seals. I think this one was like $25, so super reasonable. These are like $12 on Amazon. They're not that expensive. Where you spend a lot of your money is the wax. I think
I can imagine.
Of 10 is like $10 or $11. So you end up going through quite a few of these steps.
Now, do you also then end up writing a note?
Yes. On the back of every one, I write a note. And I did print these up where they say thank you. So at least I'm not writing that. But I always put, a little, if I know something about the item, I've done research on it, or I know a date, I'll try to include that in the little note so that people will have it. And then I'll try to put other things with it. Like, I look forward to seeing you in the chat soon, or something to that effect. Or Louis sends you pug hugs. I'll try to include something about Louis sometimes.
I will say mine, I do a written note on the back of every single one, but at 99% of the time, they all just say the same thing. They say, thank you for your order, and then my name. But I do write it each individual time. Like, I didn't just pre-print them, or I did them all at once and then stuck it in a box. So that's why in some cases, if people really pay attention, I know there was a handful of ones that went out at one point. I was spelling my name wrong. I was writing so quickly that letters were disappearing, and I'm like, okay, I really need to slow up. Sometimes the penmanship is not. And I do have a collection of pens. I'm very proud of my collection of pens. Some of them are valuable, a lot of them are not. It's literally just whatever pen I have. So sometimes what the pen that I'm using that day is a really cheap pen, and so it's skipping and it doesn't write really well. And other times it's super nice and flowy, and I'm like, that's why I like this pen. So yeah, so it's always, but it's never planned, and I never go hunting for the nice pen. It's just whatever was in my shirt that day, because I do not leave the house, and I do not go to work, even though I work downstairs. I do not go to work without a pen in my pocket. So
Yes, I have a little pen. It's about this big, and it folds out to be a big pen. And I think they're called moon pens. They're around. You can find them at different office stores and whatnot. But there's a local store here that just specializes in high-end pens and leather goods. Absolutely amazing. And I bought it, and I carry that all the time in my pocket because you can't be without a pen.
excellent. And so you were saying the gun is actually something new. You
Yes.
didn't use. You used. How did you do it before you had the gun?
So before I had the gun, it was a very long process. I had a little cradle with a candle underneath, and then you set your spoon, your wax spoon, on top, and you put for the larger stamps, it is exactly 5 round little pellets. Yes, I calculated and went through, trying different amounts to see what was exactly perfect. So it was 5 pellets for a large stamp. If I used my little stamp, which just has my name on it, it was 3 pellets, and I'd wait for that wax to melt. Well, the candles, they're dumb because they are little tea lights, and they burn through so quickly. So I went from that to actually probably doing something slightly dangerous, and I wouldn't recommend this, but I would hold the lighter, those little Zippo lighters, or any of the Bic lighters you get it, for $1 at the grocery store. I'd hold them down over the wax spoon and just let it heat up so that it would go a little faster. Problem with that is the Bic lighters get pretty hot, and I've burned myself. I've had wax come over the side, hit my thumb, which is not fun. And then one time I did it, and I guess I held it too long, and the spoon just went whoop. It just melted in half. So I don't recommend that at all.
Living dangerously.
Yeah, get yourself a glue gun and make it easier.
Now I'm curious. A couple people who just said, Cheryl says she's got a stone Chinese stamp. I don't know, but she doesn't use it for her packages. I'm curious, does anyone else, and I apologize if somebody already said it in the chat, does anyone else you're the only one I know that does a wax stamp or wax seal. Does anybody else know?
Kim does.
Do you do them?
At Oh My Vintage. She's got a little K.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know about anybody else in the chat.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever received something from Kim, so I don't remember seeing. I didn't see that. So yes, a couple of people were they were talking about you doing it, but I was curious if anybody else was doing it on their own. So one of the things that we are going to, I'm not, again, if you want a mystery box, just let me know, knock yourself out. I will send you one. Just send me an email saying that you wanted a mystery box. I do have a new item up in my eBay store. This is not going to end until I think it ends on Tuesday, but Super Bowl is coming up. But this is a 1956 program between the Bears and the Packers that when they used to play at Wrigley Field. So I've got this program. This just went up and is currently live on it went up on Tuesday. So that will run until next Tuesday, so it won't end in the middle of the sale. But I did want to show some of the things I picked up. I have found a new auction house, and what's unique about it, well, it's rare. They do not do online bidding. So the only bidding that happens is either in the room or somebody that's come to their facility to offer a absentee bid that they can't be there. So things go for pretty decent prices, and they've got mixed lots. So I wanted to showcase a few things. So these I just picked up last night. I set an alarm so that I can get back in time for the duo dive. So I went to this last night.
Oh,
so this is a Czechoslovakian glass piece. So this is probably 80s or 90s. I don't think it's particularly old. Unfortunately, if I was by itself, I wouldn't have picked it up because it actually has a chip out of the glass there and a nick in the things on the same side, if I remembered right. Yeah, there's a nick in the rim. So loses quite a bit of its value, but it just happens that both pieces of damage are in the same side, so you can turn it to the back. But it is a cool piece of glass. Matches not quite matches Katie. Looks a little more purple here. It's kind of coming reddish on the screen, but this is one piece. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it because of the damage, but I wanted to make sure I showed. Let me show you this one. This is the reason I bought the box. So all these pieces were in the same box.
Oh, look at that.
So this is what I bought. It's not signed, and I don't know what it is. So on the bottom, it has a pontil mark. So it is a very large piece of blown glass. What I'm confused by is it seems that the base piece was done separately from the vase. So I'm not sure, but the pontil is in the purple. So I'm not sure how I'm not even sure how this thing got made, that you've got this amber color so I don't know if it's still there. It's just the purple coming through. I don't know, but it looks like it was blown into some sort of a mold to create this cushion effect. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what era this is. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to shipping this, Nancy.
No, that's going to be a tough challenge.
It's going to be hard to ship, and it's actually pretty heavy. So it's so Nate's Nate's leaving for dinner, so he can go come up with new insults for me for later.
Bye.
But I don't know if is that a technique? Do I have glass lovers in the I love contemporary art glass, and I do believe this is contemporary. I don't even know what this is called, so I don't know what to list it as. I think it looks like a cushion, but I don't know if that's a real term. So curious if anybody recognizes this.
Now I'm going to ask the age-old question, Patrick. Does the yellow glow?
You know what? I didn't try it. Let me see. Where is my glow light? Hold on. I'm going to give you the screen for a minute.
I have no idea if that would actually glow or not because it is more contemporary, but it's pretty cool. And the texture pressed into the glass, however they've done that, is really amazing. I saw someone, I think it was Leanne, was asking about my wax seal. Here it is. It's like an old-fashioned stamp that you pour wax and then put it in like on an envelope.
I would say no, it does not.
No, I don't think it does. Well, no. It was worth the try. You never know.
Yeah, no, you're right. I should have thought to look at it before, but no, it's a really like almost like an orange amber. So I just don't know. Like if anybody knows kind of even what the technique is, because that's the big thing about listing on eBay and Etsy, and sometimes why I choose to list there and sometimes I choose not to list there. If I know the term and it's a popular term, like I can call it cushion all I want, but if nobody else calls it that, they're not going to look for it. So if this is a term, or if this is a style, like maybe a region did it like this, it makes the searchability of it much higher, and somebody might find it. If I have no way to make people find it other than purple glass, the likelihood I'm going to be able to sell it is much lower. So that's when things will end up on my live sale being like, look, I'm just going to sell it here. So that's the reason I bought it. These were secondary reasons because I love my pottery. Now I'm not going to keep these pieces, but there's some beautiful art pottery here.
Ooh, that's lovely.
I'm not sure if this one would have had a lid. It's very, very flat, and there's a little bit of a flare here. So there might have been something that sat on top, but I don't think it detracts from it that there isn't something there. And it just has it's like kind of a drip effect, slipware effect of color on there. And then this one almost has like, it's almost a salt glaze or maybe Raku, but you can see that the finish is not consistent on it. You know, so it's actually, it seems like it was made similar to the pieces behind me. So I do, but I don't think it's that old. I think it's that technique, and the bottom makes it look like Raku. So
it does look Raku pottery.
Yeah, so it's like I've not seen Raku that has this dull of a glaze on it, but Raku can do all different types of glazes. It's just so I probably will list it as Raku because of the bottom. But like again, so these two pieces I was really happy to get, but they were not my primary. But the one thing I wanted to ask the hive mind.
Yep, gotta love all the people in the chat. Ooh.
So this is what Love in Circles says. I love Google Lens. This one has stumped Google Lens. So this one is a ginger jar form. Same thing. I don't know if there should be a lid to this. Typically, this will either be a true vase, or with this form, there would have been another lid on top of it that would also have had that form. This, I don't have the lid, so it's entirely possible this is incomplete. It is stamped on the bottom, Germany, and then I think that says 600 and then the number 20. So I did Google Germany 620. Really didn't find anything. I did Google lens. I can't figure out what era this is. So I have some thoughts. So what are you thinking, Katie? What would you say this era is?
I just am really stumped because you've got that really pretty blue color, and then I love the silver detail around those little geometric shapes. So I don't know. Man,
So when
maybe
I first saw the shape and I first saw the blue color, I initially thought 60s.
yeah.
And then I saw well, I think I saw that side first. I'm like, okay, that could probably still be the 60s. Then I saw that side. And now I felt that this was stolen off the set of Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
And it's 90s. But then that stamp makes it feel like it's older again. So that's molded into, it's not a stamp, it's molded into the bottom. So Google Lens completely failed me. It's kind of a cool glaze technique where it's kind of got this high and low, like matte versus high gloss finish kind of in the blue. And then these colors were added, and then it looks like by hand, the silver was applied over them because you can kind of see the blue snuck out from underneath that one. So I do think it's a production piece. Like if this was an individually made piece, I think they would have taken more care to get the edges clean, but maybe not. But so I don't know if this is like a studio one-off piece or if this was a production piece. So does anybody have any thoughts on that?
And I bet that silver was probably painted separately and then fired, like you said, they probably fired that at a different temperature.
That's true. Yeah, and I'm assuming it is fired. I don't want to try and flake it off that I don't know. I don't want to assume that it's cold painted because I don't want to damage it in any way. There's this portion as well that almost looks like a stamp, but I don't know. Like it's like I don't know if that was once heavy and then it kind of thinned out or if it was designed to be that way. So we've got some 80s deco revival. We've got some 80s. But then just front porch pickers said the same thing. It felt like the bottom
Is what
that seems older, like not old, but older. So Catherine's thinking 80s, 80s.
It has 80s, that 80s cup. You know, like have you ever seen those cup? They're not solo cups, but they're like water cups that were big in the 80s and 90s, and they've got that blue color on them with the geometric shapes. Someone in the chat probably knows exactly what I'm describing.
Yeah, that's not ringing a bell.
Must be a name for them, but they're paperboard cups. They were everywhere, like at restaurants, fast food chains. It has that same color.
Okay, everyone's laughing at my Saved by the Bell, but you all know what I'm talking about. You all picture Zach and whoever, like, don't play ball in the house. Okay, I just added a Brady Bunch into that, but yes, Zach and Kelly's wedding vase. There you go.
The Dixie cup, Julie. Yep, that Dixie cup color.
From pretty in pink. Oh, good point. 80s would have said West Germany.
Interesting. Okay.
And this just says Germany. So then this would have put it past 88 or 89. Okay, so we're in the 90s. Well, or we're in the 30s, and there's no way this is from the 30s.
No.
So thank you so much, Bren. That I didn't even think of that. You were 100% hit on the mark. So we were definitely into the 90s, which that was my plan B. Let's see, wait a minute. Maybe way off. And that's something I questioned as well. I think these pieces actually aesthetically seem to fit this style of glazing behind it. These seem a little bit more jarring, but if we're talking the 90s, that's exactly what you would have done. Yep. You would have taken a very pretty sponge painted wall and then attacked it with some bold color. Tiger missed the purple. Well, you got Katie wearing purple.
Yep, I got purple on for you, Tiger.
But I showed my purple vase. So yes. So I'm so glad you said that, Bren. I feel stupid that I didn't think of it myself, but thank you so much. This does push this in the 90s, which still makes it vintage. to be perfectly honest, I'll probably just sell this in a live sale because again, there's nothing about this that makes it super searchable. Like I could put it in Saved by the Bell, but I don't think a lot of people are searching for Saved by the Bell decor. So this will probably just end up being in a live sale. So if anybody wants it, make me an offer. But that'll probably just be one of those cases since I have no really good way to sell it online. I'll just sell it here because like we can all joke about it. But the reason I also was leaning towards 60s on some of them, or maybe because I wanted it to be older, was because several of the other pieces that I got in this same box were from the 60s and they were marked from the 60s. You saw a quilt pattern in this? I don't ever want to quilt templates again. I did that once. It was horrible. So, but you're true. You were correct. Okay, so this one is actually a signed piece. Mary Feldy from 1961. And I'll show you the back first because I think the shape is the very mid-century modern shape. So you have this kind of crescent cut in the top. It's not flat, it's curved. But then when they decorated it, it's beautifully decorated. But I think this is moving out of mid-century modern. Like to me, this is not what I think of when I think of Mad Men, when I think of the Cleavers or anything like that. This actually, to me, looks like something you would see in the 80s, but it very clearly says 61. So are they poppies? They definitely have the black inside, but they're very pale. I've only ever seen like dark red poppies.
Maybe it's her interpretation of like a watercolored poppy.
Maybe. And maybe this was the color scheme of her home. Like, so she was just painting it to be like because this, it's kind of showing up. It's like a really, really sagey green. So you've got the darker green of the leaves, which are dimensional. These are very heavily painted. And then this kind of green is like within the color here. So it's kind of like by itself, it could look blue, but I think it is the green. And then there's like mauve, a really, really, really light pink.
Very Golden Girls.
Yes. And that's why I'm like thrown by the 61. Yeah. So I don't but I'm not the mid-century person like this. And I didn't grow up with anything like this. But yeah, shape wise, I definitely think. And her initials are here. So she did paint the flowers. She didn't just paint the vase. She painted the flowers. So the fact that she's got the 61. The only other thing, which I don't think, why would anyone do that unless that was the year she was born, in which case she then would have painted this when she was 20 and that would have been 1981. But why would you put the year you were born? I think that's the year it was made.
Yeah, I think it was the year it was made too. Now, Nancy.
Okay, so they're saying, so Michelle is saying the stem is, I don't even know what a poppy stem looks like. So stem is totally poppies. But I've never seen poppy leaves like that. That almost looks like an evergreen.
Yeah, that looks evergreen to me. But Nancy says poppies come in pastel colors.
Do they?
See them usually in red because it is the symbol for Flanders Field in World War I.
Okay, which is true. That's all I think of is red. Yep. And in not Gone with the Wind, in Wizard of Oz, they were dark red.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz.
When she falls asleep in the field, those were dark red also. So yeah, I didn't realize that they came in other colors. So okay, that's good to know that they're poppies. I might try and sell this online because it's actually a very distinctive piece. It may not be everyone's aesthetic. It definitely isn't mine, but I can appreciate the art form. And I don't know if I'll be able to do pictures well enough, but like kind of look at the top. There is heavy dimensionality in this paint. This woman was not on a paint ration. She had lots of paint and she absolutely put it in here. So I don't think it's going to have high value, but it's in perfect condition and it is a signed, even if it's a DIY piece, it is a signed piece. So Catherine is saying that this is something possibly by Bay Ceramic, which would be German. So thank you, Catherine. Like I said, I love the hive mind. I love helping people when I can, and I love when people can help me.
Yes, people are great. You can post a picture or something and say, hey, does anyone know? And usually 9 out of 10 times, somebody has a really educated, amazing answer to share.
And sometimes it's a guess, and sometimes you can tell. It's like, oh, well, I think my grandma had that, or oh, well, that's not a problem. But they're like, oh, I think that's precious moments. It's like, okay, that is clearly not precious moments, but thanks for playing. So sometimes you go down a wild goose chase, but for the most part, people are trying to be helpful. And they may not know, but I'm all about educating myself as well as everybody else. And so sometimes, like, I've never heard of Bay Ceramic. So even if this doesn't end up being that company, maybe I'll find out, well, what do they make? Or maybe they make things that look like that. So if I stumble across it again, I'm like, oh, okay, that might be Bay. And particularly if that has value, because sometimes that's what it comes down to. Like, okay, like, this is pretty, but what am I willing to pay for it? Because what is it worth to resell? And this is one of those worlds for those of you who don't actually sell. When you get into the live sales, like, Katie and I, we talk about this, even the small sales that she and I do. It's like, okay, this is worth X number of dollars, but what is the likelihood in the number of people that are going to be sitting in a live chat with us to buy it? We're going to have that right person that's willing to pay that. And, there is some argument that you could sit there and say, okay, well, here are all the, here are the eBay sold comps, and trying to guilt people into buying it, or like, hey, I'm giving you a good price. But if you'd have to have the right aesthetic. Like, I collect a lot, and a lot of stuff I collect because I came across it as a reseller, but that doesn't mean you're going to collect everything. And so that's why my prices tend to be a little bit on the lower side, because my philosophy in selling is, you did not wake up this morning knowing you needed a film splicer, but this is the coolest piece of industrial, equipment you can have. But you're not going to buy it even as worth 50. You're not going to buy it for 50 because you don't need it, but you might buy it for 20, or you might buy it for 5 or 10 or whatever. So I tend to be, and this isn't necessarily what I was going out for, but I tend to end up being I'm the impulse buy at the checkout counter. I'm like, here's a piece for $5. Here's a piece for $10. And the way I sell, I tend not to sell the stuff when I have something for 25 or 35. Those things don't tend to sell as easily, even though it may be worth 100. People are like, yeah, that's not what I'm looking for, and I'm not looking to drop $35. So I try to we're just here to have fun, not selling the Mona Lisa. So, we're just here to have fun and then educate people as we go. So that was all, believe it or not, that was all in one box.
That's
so 1,
amazing.
2, 3, 4. So those 5, I want to say there were 6. Oh, the one on the floor. Yeah, there were 6 pieces in that box. And it was just the right night for me because there wasn't a lot of competition for it. I mean, the one piece is damaged, which is unfortunate because, well, this is probably the most valuable piece, but I'm not sure. Like, if I were going off of my gut based on my personal collection and what I have paid for art glass. Now, typically my art glass is signed, and I have not yet found a signature. I haven't put it under a loop, but I did look for a signature and I didn't find one. So this is an unsigned piece. I would say this is probably worth $75 to $100.
Yep.
It is unlikely, if I sell it in a live sale, it is unlikely I would get more than 50. And I'd be really lucky to even get that. Might be able to do that on Etsy, because Etsy, they will do more art glass stuff. And I'm hoping it'll photograph well. It actually does. Some of that design does show up.
The design.
I did have to light it well because that design is really cool. So that's probably the most valuable piece. Like I said, that's why I bought it. And then because I like pottery, I bought these, but these are not particularly valuable. I mean, these two will probably be like 10, $20 a piece. That's it. And this one, to me, is worth nothing.
Like, you never know, like that.
No, exactly. Like, I lived through this era. I don't want to see it again. Like, so I can't imagine anyone wanting this. But yeah, this is the one she said, there's a quilt design on it. Like, there are definitely people, like you said, I didn't think of the Golden Girls, but I could totally picture that, and people are trying to create that. So this could surprise me. Like, maybe this is one of the ones I put up as an auction just to see, hey, what's it? And there you go. Tiger said it hit right in the head. Exactly. Is this worth something? And the other piece of that puzzle, and Tiger resells, so he knows this as well. It's worth as much as the person who finds it is willing to pay for it. Because that's a case where I was like, okay, even in cases where I'm like, okay, I'm not saying this is, but say I find this exact vase, and it has sold once a year for the last 5 years, and every time it sells for $100. Okay, that's worth $100. but it only sells $100 once a year. So it's like, I got to wait for somebody that's willing to pay $100 to find it. And if I'm trying to sell it in that window, when that person who's willing to pay $100 doesn't show up, it may sell for 10, and there are different philosophies. There are people, many resellers that we all look up to. Some that will say, no, if it's worth $100, I'm holding on to that thing until I get 100 because that's what it's worth. I do not have a cold storage warehouse upstairs.
No, I don't either.
So it's like, I don't have the luxury of holding on to something until I can sell it for what it's worth. So I need to sell it for what I can get. And the phrase for resellers, a lot of times, it's you make your money when you buy it. So like if I know this sells once a year for $100 and I pay 60 for it, well, I'm pretty much limiting myself until I find that person who's willing to spend 100. But I didn't spend 60 for this. I didn't even spend 60 on the entire box. So if I divvy up the price point, I can sit there and say, you know what? I don't actually have that much into this. I can take way less and be done with it, and it won't get broken. It won't, I just don't have to worry about it because I'm sorry, there was stuff that got donated to me for the dachshund rescue. I ended up having to buy because I knocked it over while I was waiting to sell it. So it's like, the longer you hold on to something, the more likely I'm going to break it. So it's one of those cases. It is much more interesting to me to sell it. And if somebody, one time we were chatting about this once before, somebody in the chat this months ago, can't remember who it was, outright said, like, I love buying from you because you sell it cheap enough I can then resell it. It was a reseller. And other people thought that was a rude comment I found afterwards. And I'm like, I didn't find that rude at all. I have absolutely no problem because trust me, if I sell it to you for what you think is too low of a price, I still made money. I'm a huckster, but I am trusty, but I'm not stupid. So there might be times where it's like, oh my God, that's worth 5 times that. Why is he selling it for so little? Because I'm trying to get it out of my freaking house. So, at some point, I would much rather give it to somebody like Nancy who can resell it, or Tiger who's going to resell it, Peterson who might resell it, even Katie. Katie's gotten some stuff from me specifically to resell. I have no problem with that because trust me, I made money. And yes, if I held on to it longer, had 5 live sales a week, or Nate was fantastic last night, but Nate is in the process of planning a 12-hour long live sale. He's had a mental institution as far as I'm concerned. That's crazy. And I just saw the comment come across. This was the one that had the quilt pattern. So yes, you're right. I'm calling it cushioned. You're absolutely right. I could call it quilted. It does kind of look like a quilted.
Yeah, it does look like quilted.
So, and all of us are in it for different things. I've been outright told point blank, I would have a different approach if I did this full time. Hey, you can think whatever you want. I don't think I would. Because even if I was doing this full time, I still wouldn't have a cold storage warehouse upstairs. I'd still be limited in my space. I would just be buying differently, and I would be selling more often, but I still wouldn't necessarily be doing anything differently. So it's not that I'm right. It's just, that's just the way I'm doing it. Okay. Everyone's doing what? Why? What did I say?
I think they think that you're talking about our Nate from New Zealand. And if you miss that,
no. Nate from my vintage is 1976. The guy from last night. So sorry. I'm like, why are people freaking out? What did I just insult somebody?
Nate is not having a sale, but
Nate is not having a sale.
Is having a sale.
The different Nate. Nate, what's his last name? Nate Smith. Nate Smith?
Yes.
Yeah. From my vintage is 1976. He's an Instagrammer. He was on Katie's channel last night. So yes. We are talking about Nate from my vintage. So sorry, not Soul Nate. I'm like, why are people freaking out? What did I say? Did I swear again? Just checking.
Well, Patrick, I'm like you. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, so I cannot store a ton of things. And I've actually really enjoyed doing these jewelry sales and these advertising and ephemera sales because they don't take up a lot of room. They're easy to ship. And people seem to really enjoy some of the pieces I've had. And I just think that's fantastic. So I enjoy that more than I do, even though I love glass and porcelain and pottery and I appreciate all that cool vintage. It's a lot harder for me to store. And like Patrick said, I've had things that I've been really upset that I broke because I'm now trying to store them in my closet where I could get dressed every day. And Louie's back there rummaging around and things. And I'm like, no, Louie, don't do that.
And it's something like I can absolutely take care of my collections, like everything in my, I'm looking at an entire wall that everything on is breakable. but it's because they're there for a purpose and that they're right where they're supposed to be. It's not a vase that's tucked behind a box, sitting next to a bag, next to another box that's got, whatever, because it's like, I'm a believer and there's a place for everything and everything in its place. I'm not the tidiest of people, but I get into moments where I'm like, no, I got to put everything away. Like if I let it go too far, and the live sales can be overwhelming. I mentioned that. I think I put in a post or something that this was going to be a chat tonight instead of a sale, because at some point I do find the sales overwhelming, and not necessarily emotionally, although sometimes that is the case. Sometimes I find them frustrating, and I don't know what people are looking for, or how to do it differently, or what I should be doing. So I don't need that in my life. This is supposed to be fun. So I'm having a blast tonight. I was planning on only doing this for an hour, but I'm having fun. So we were talking about ephemera. I did actually pick up some more ephemera.
Ooh, cool.
I found cigarette cards. So Joni hasn't been on in a while, but so Joni did a dive with us where she talked about cigarette cards. And so I picked up, it's an entire set of airplane cards from
love those
Wings cigarettes. So that one in particular I hadn't heard of. So I need to look, because I can't remember if these might have been American made, or these might be the British ones. I'm not sure. So I had those in the same lot. I picked those up. I also picked up this other set of space related ones. Now these are tea cards, and I've had some of these. These are the Brooch Bond tea cards, the Race into Space. And so there's all space.
Man, those are cool.
Yeah, these are just really pretty. These are a little bit later because these are tea. So these are probably going into the 40s, maybe even going into the 50s. Cigarette cards kind of died out in World War II, but the tea ones kind of survived for a while. What'd you say, Katie? I'm sorry.
I said I would imagine that time frame is exactly accurate for the
particularly the space ones. Like I meant the tea in general, but the space ones. We weren't doing Sputnik in the 20s.
Yeah.
So we had limitations, but these are older. These were the John Player and Son ones. And I was really excited about these because these are all old fire wagons.
Oh man, look at that.
So the series is called Firefighting Appliances, which I find a very weird name. But these are the older ones. So these would probably be somewhere around World War I. So I need to check these specifically. Unfortunately, I don't think I have the full set, but I'm okay with it when I've got things that look like that.
Yeah, I'm totally drooling over those packs.
Yeah, these are just so much fun. So what I'll probably do is try and keep it as a set, maybe sell it on eBay or Etsy for a while, see if it sells. And if it doesn't, these are the types of things I'd throw into those little mini mystery packs that I do, because they definitely, like, if I were to sell this as a set, if it was a full set, they'd be worth $2 to $3 a piece. As a non-full set, you're probably, $1 each is reasonable. The fact of the matter is some of the individual ones could be like $5 or $7, because what will happen is somebody has 38 of them and they're missing 2. And so they're going to pay big bucks to get the 2 that they're missing. So sometimes selling them individually, you can make a lot more money, but I don't have the luxury to do that. I don't have the time to individually list all of these papers. And then more importantly, mail them all one at a time. Like at this point, I'm at the point with my live sale, I'm trying to move away from it. I don't want to ship anything if it's under $10, just because there's not enough. And I hate, this sounds like really greedy, and it's not, it's just out of function. It's too much of my time to turn around and sell something. That's why I don't do my Trusty's bargain bin anymore. I used to sell stuff for $2. Well, I was an idiot. Like, I mean, people had fun buying it and I had fun selling it, but then I had to try and ship it. I wasn't making any money. And then if you start taking your time into it, I was losing money, so it's like, I already try not to think about how much I spend, how long I spend prepping for a sale, and then how long I spend invoicing and then shipping. Because if you then take my profit margin and divide it out by the number of hours, and this goes for all of the sellers, we're all in the same boat, for the number of hours we spend doing that, what we make on an hourly is like nothing. And yet we still get yelled at for prices being too high or shipping is being too high. And it's just like, I just had a kind of a nasty little discussion with the person that bought the $300 punch bowl. She thought the pricing was too expensive. I'm like, this is a 15-pound package shipping from Chicago to the West Coast. that is 24 by 24 by 20. This thing, I had to go buy a special size box just to put the damn thing in.
Of
And
course,
she
it's gonna
wanted
be
to argue about the
expensive.
price of the shipping. And I'm like, I don't make money on shipping. Like, trust me,
No,
it's going to cost every penny of this. Now, the fact of the matter is, if you lived in Illinois, shipping would be like half as much. And so it's like, I'm not, when people ask, and just this is just like our little PSA that nobody wanted to hear. Don't ask your seller for discounts on shipping.
yeah,
You
it's
know,
not
unless you
possible.
no, unless you think your seller is like ripping you off, which that's possible. But if it's too expensive because the shipping, well, then you shouldn't buy something that weighs 15 pounds. You
Mhm.
know, it is what it is. Like sometimes you
Especially
can go on eBay. I can go on eBay, be like, oh, I really love this one. It's in California though, and it's going to cost $25 to ship it to me. Oh, look, this one's in Indiana. It's only going to cost me $8. That's not the shipper's fault. It's the
no.
seller's fault. You know, and then sometimes I'll be like, oh, but the one in California is in better condition. You know
I've
what?
had that happen.
I'll pay the $25 because then it's like, okay, that's the cost of goods. Like I'm now suddenly that it's that much more valuable or that much more expensive, depending on how you want to look at it. And sometimes I'll only do that if it's like for my own collection, but it's very frustrating because, and that's one of the reasons we're going to do the shipping duo dive. We're just going to talk about the realities. We're just going to educate. That's what the duo dives are for. We're just going to educate and say, hey, just take these things into consideration. Sometimes we're hoping maybe some resellers might learn some things. I remember I was on one of Danny's live sales from the Niche Lady, and she was trying to educate people on shipping. And I actually threw something out to her. I'm like, well, actually, and I gave her a piece of data that I had. She had no idea. She's like, oh, you're kidding. And so like we actually had a conversation and she's like, I had no idea. Because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So we're going to share it. And I think in some cases there's no magic to this. So we wanted to then share and just, we'll talk about the different options in shipping, why sometimes it's more expensive, or like why is something more expensive? It could be weight or it could just be size. Like if you're sending a Saber, it may not be that heavy. But it's going to be long. Like that's going to be a big box and you're just going to deal with it. So
I've had people email me too before and they'll say, we're such and such seller ships cheaper. And I can say, well, you live here. They live here. You are closer to them. I am in Florida. And, that's why all of us at the live sales will say, I'm shipping from Florida. I'm shipping from Indiana or Illinois or California, wherever the case may be, because it does matter to where you are located. So I'm shipping from Florida. Oh, suddenly you live in California and now you want to buy a giant wreath from me, which is fine. I'm happy to ship it to you, but that is going to be expensive. And that's just something that you kind of have to keep in mind when you're buying. You can't get too angry at the sellers because for the most part, unless you're doing something that's, not within what most of us do, we will ship an item and give you the shipping cost that's given to us on pirate ship. Right. So we're I can screenshot a pirate ship quote, which I have done before, and sent to people and say, look, I'm just telling you what I'm
doing. It is what it is.
And it's how it is. And, so shipping is definitely something I think will be good to educate not only resellers, especially newer resellers that are curious about how the shipping works, but also buyers so that they kind of know from our side of things what we're doing and how it all works.
And it's one of those cases that, and this is something that usually if it's being pointed out to them politely, they'll suddenly realize what they're doing. But so many of us, myself included, we're so used to Amazon and free shipping and like 2-day shipping and overnight shipping, all these things for free. I'm not Amazon. I am not going to get the discounts that Amazon gets. I don't have a fleet of trucks that runs from my door to your door. Like even if you're local, I just don't have it. So if I will try and do my best, like, so Michelle's saying she, for Canadian buyers, because they're for people that don't live in or ship to Canada, some of the rules, some of the pricing, it's scarily expensive. Like I don't, Cheryl, I don't know if you know this, but if you've gotten it yet, you're getting a free gift in your box because I felt so guilty how much you paid for shipping that I realized I could shove something else in there and it wasn't going to change the weight or the cost. So you got a gift. But I do that because I feel guilty, but it's not me. I didn't charge it. But I just recognize that, sometimes it's big bucks. And so, so Michelle's doing these options and figuring out there's this whole thing with duty. We won't go into that level of detail, but that takes time out of Michelle's day. So it's like, if you're asking a shipper to help you, that's great, but I have a full-time job, so it's like, I'll get to you when I get to you. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but to a certain extent, it's like, okay, look, I did everything in my power. Like, it's there. I actually started carrying 12 by 12 by 6 boxes, because the exact same weight, the standard USPS box is 12 by 12 by 8. That box adds up to 32 linear inches when you add the 12 and the 12 and the 8. 30 is a cutoff. So if you do a 12 by 12 by 6, it's actually significantly cheaper to ship, which seems silly, but it
Wow.
is. One time I was shipping to California, and the difference between a 12 by 12 by 8 box and a 12 by 12 by 6 box was over $10 for shipping the exact same item. It was just because the dimensional weight, I don't have to cut down a box. So I started carrying 12 by 12 by 6. I'll do that, but I'm not going to bend over backwards. I'm not going to figure out, the earth spin and the direction of the wind, and
Yeah.
figure out how to get a
You don't
carrier
have
pigeon
time.
help. It's like, it is what it is. And Catherine's 100% right. There have been times I've lost money, because I will say, because here's what I do, and this is not right, is just what I do. Unfortunately, there have been times in the live sale world and in the Instagram world that there will be people who claim they will buy something and then they back out. I've gotten burned on that enough times. I do not seal a box before.
Patrick's smart.
I do not seal a box before I invoice. I will find the box that I will put it in. I will weigh the item with the box, and I will estimate how much the packing material will cost to go on top of it. And that's what I use for the shipping costs. There have been times that once I've added, like if it's got 3 or 4 items in there, I go to put them in the box that I thought it would fit in, didn't fit. And I had to move up to the next box. I don't go back and change somebody's quote. That's my fault. So, there's times you do. You just eat it, and you just take it as a cost of doing business. And you learn as you go. But, absolutely. That's why we're going to do it, Cheryl, is we're going to educate both sellers and buyers. And at no point are we saying that people aren't educated. It's like, this is just super confusing. And I will say, there are pirate ships, something people will hear a lot about. But there are resellers that are actively selling on eBay, Etsy, and Instagram that I've bought from. When I receive their package, it shows the retail priced packaging stamped from the post office. Why? Like, why would you do that?
Significantly cheaper.
Absolutely. Like, even if it's not cheaper, it's easier. Like, I could do all this pirate ship from home. Like, it's just crazy.
And the beautiful thing about pirate ship is, as a reseller.
No, you were getting a maxi pad anyway, Cheryl. That was part of your order.
Especially people that do live sales, where we have people that come into our chats regularly and they buy from us. You can keep a running customer list within Pirate Ship, which is fantastic. So it's easy to go back. I can type in someone's name that's bought from me before, especially if they're a good customer and they buy often. And I've got their name, their email address right there. It is super easy. You can copy. There's a little copy feature for their emails, and you can paste that into the invoicing tab over on PayPal, and it's great.
I don't know. If you're talking about the cost of shipping, feel free. It's also one of those educational things. Because what had happened in Cheryl's case, she's based in Canada. So what she was buying from me was very lightweight. And the cutoff for Canada, there's one price if you go up to 8 ounces. And then if you go over 8 ounces, the next price covers you to 2 pounds. So it doesn't matter whether you send 9 ounces or you send 1 pound, 15 ounces. So it's really good to keep something under 8, because it's still expensive, but it's not usury. Yeah. So you have these thresholds. So in the case of Cheryl's, case, I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what it was. I want to say this 8 ounce price is somewhere around like $17, something like that. But what she was buying was, she bought a handkerchief. And I had forgotten, totally my fault. I had forgotten the last time she bought a mystery box, I forgot to put a maxi pad in there. So I was sending her also the maxi pad to make up for that. So the two of those things added together, even though I was sending it in a box because I didn't want the maxi pad to get crushed in a padded envelope, the whole thing only weighed like 5 ounces. So I'm like, okay, I got 3 ounces. I can throw something else in here, and she's going to not pay any more for shipping. And I can, something that, it didn't cost me a lot of money, something that I could throw in there that kind of gives her a little bit more bang for her buck for her shipping costs. So if that's what you're talking about, Cheryl, we don't tend to talk about that a lot, but it's more knowing where those cutoffs are, because I discovered that in shipping to Nate.
Yes, me too.
To New Zealand, because again, once you start jumping over certain thresholds, it's like, well, you might as well throw a set of lifesavers in there, because there you've got another 10 ounces you can put in basically for free. So because they're trying to get to the next weight limit. So if you don't know those, and those international tends to be a little bit broader, but even domestically, there can be times where it suddenly surprises me, where it's like, oh, okay. Usually the cutoffs are every half pound, but there's been times that it was the same, particularly local. Well, not local, but like for me, shipping in the Midwest, I can literally, I think I shipped 15 pounds, a mystery box that weighed 15 pounds. It was 18 by 14 by 6. And I think I shipped it for $9.
Wow.
Because I shipped it a grand total of 80 miles, something like that. That same box, even to Katie in Florida, would have probably been 30. And to California would have been 50. Like it was too big of a box and it was too heavy. But I knew she was local. So she got it was a Doxy box. It was a Doxy box. No worries, Nancy. Thanks for joining in. Hope you're enjoying the earlier time slot.
Yes,
someday we'll switch back and you'll have this horrible time slot back. But I appreciate you working with me as we go.
And I find that too, with the rates going up and things changing with the post office all the time, it really does help if you as a buyer can pay as quickly as possible. Because what's happened to me is I've had people that have taken a while, and sometimes, the invoices go to spam, whatever, things do happen. So it's not anyone's one particular fault, but I will have invoiced someone a particular shipping quote, and then, oops, come Christmas, the rates went up.
Yeah,
so
end of the year, things start changing.
It's like you just eat the $2 or $3 and move on, but that's still frustrating. So it does help to pay attention to those things, and try to pay as quickly as possible as a buyer. That's extremely helpful.
So front porch picker. Definitely join the Duo Dive next month. It'll be the 23rd. Because we will definitely talk about box and bag, because I'm just going to tip our hands a little bit. There's the legal way of using box and bag, and there's the illegal way of using box and bag. And unfortunately, there are many, many resellers in the vintage community who use the illegal way, and they may be doing it unknowingly, but it doesn't make it any less illegal. So we are going to talk about that. Because what I have said, and we will just use examples, what I have found, if you use it properly, there is virtually no difference between shipping a box by itself versus box and bag. If you find that there's a difference, it's because you're probably looking at it illegally. And we're not casting aspersions. We're not trying to cause trouble. We're trying to educate. So that's one of the definitely things we will be covering is box and bag.
And that's a thing that I've gotten too. And we'll go more into it in the Duo Dive, but I've had people too email me and say, well, if you just did box and bag, it would be cheaper. And I'm like, well, I don't do box and bag because that particular way of doing box and bag is not in line with what's legal with the post office. And I don't want to do anything that would get me in any trouble knowingly. And I know about it. And so I don't do it. And so a lot of people will say, well, but just do it. It's cheaper. And I'm like, no, see, I'm not compromising my integrity to have a cheaper price.
5 by 5 by 5, you should be able to do releve. It's 3 by 3 by 3 that you can't.
Now, I had an issue, Kate, today with a 5 by 5 by 5 mailer. It didn't like it. It said it was too small. So
interesting, because I sell 6 by 6 by. I ship 6 by 6 by 4 all the time. Mm-hmm. That's my most popular size. That's what I ship my coasters in. I just shipped a Huda pottery pitcher today in that. But that's when I use box and bag. Is I do have a box that's 4 by 4 by 2, and that is too small for pirate ship to take on its own. So then I put it legitimately in a box and a bag, but I put the bag size in the proper size. And then you can. So that there is a place to use box and bag, but usually it's because I had never heard of that. I use 6 by 6 by 6 all the time and 6 by 6 by 4. So I wasn't aware that there's an issue with 5x5. That's actually really interesting. I didn't know
I
that.
use a 6x6x6 box and an 8x8x8 all the time. And I have to say, I love those boxes when the numbers are perfectly round. They're just easy to type in that way. I'm like, yay, you're an 8x8x8. That is so simple. But when
And some of it you may want to it depends on what is causing the problem. Because I know that if it's below, I think that either the total dimensions need to add up to something, but so 6x6x4 adds up to 16. So 5x5x5 only adds up to 15. So maybe it needs to add up to a total of 16, or maybe like what Michelle's saying, if it has to add up to more than 15. I'm not a big fan of just making up numbers. That's been an issue before. But if you physically measure a 5x5x5 box after you seal it, it is 5x5x5.25. The height is going to change because you've got the flaps are overlapping. So check to see what's causing. I was not aware of that. I thought 3 was the minimum.
Well, that's what I thought too. And then when I typed it in, just like Kate saying, it said it was too small.
I guess because I've just never had that box, so that actually surprises me.
So
so Michelle's saying her normal is that's 6x6x, and I used to do that's what I buy the most of is 6x6x6, but I do a lot of 6x6x4s, and it doesn't really change the shipping cost or weight like really all that much. It's the fact that because of where I get them, the 6x6x4 is like 10 cents cheaper than a 6x6x6. So I'm like, sure, I'll save it because I can use it a lot. Okay, so Steph is saying 5x5.25 doesn't work. Okay, so we'll actually add that to the question as we do because we're having a kind of I'm not going to say an expert, but somebody who does a lot of this and has done videos about shipping before. So we'll add that because she might actually be able to add something educational about that. The cube boxes are nice to stack and store too.
Yes, they're great to store. What I ended up doing was because it was a brooch I was shipping, so I taped it down a little bit more to form to the box. I untaped it and let it be just a little bit longer, and ended up being 6x6x5, and that ended up working. So I was like, okay, that's fine, whatever, or 6x5, yeah, because it was a bubble mailer, so it wouldn't have that other. It wouldn't have height to it. So anyway, that somehow worked. But I don't know why the 5x5 thing wasn't working.
And for those who are not familiar with Blackie, she is actually overseas. So that actually introduces a whole other level of stress. Because just like shipping to Nate. Because, first of all, and I don't know if it's changed. I don't know if Katie, if you've heard anything more. The U.S. Postal Service has ceased shipments during Christmas, ceased delivering to New Zealand. So you couldn't send postcards. You couldn't send regular mail. You could send... I think you could still do expedited or something like that, which was ridiculously expensive. So UPS was doing shipments, but it meant that if you sent a 1 pound box to New Zealand, it would cost $45. So you suddenly get to a 5 pound box. It wasn't necessarily like $400, but it would climb. And so suddenly so Blackie is asking people to combine boxes. That's a whole different thing. There are times where on occasion, I've been asked if somebody buys one thing, and this was when my sales were at a normal time. But if they buy one thing, they would say, can you hold on to it till next week? I'll probably buy something else, because they didn't want to pay, $7, $8, $9 for shipping to ship one $6 item. And I understood that. And as long as you communicate that in advance, where I tend to be a little bit more edgy is when you choose just not to pay your invoice because you decide you're going to wait and buy something and then don't. You legitimately, it's going to happen, but you're going to piss me off. So that's your package is going to look nice. It's like, I'm just going to take it out somewhere. Communication is key. I was just on an Instagram thing earlier today, and that's really what it boils down to. If you have to back out of a sale because you run out of money, or if something happens, or health issues, hey, let me know. And I may not be able to work with you, but if you're talking to me and you're asking for help, of course I'm going to try and work with you. I'm not that big of a jerk. I'm a jerk, but I'm not that big of a jerk. But you just ghost me and stop responding to my emails, and then whatever. I don't have a lot of patience. I don't block anybody, but I'm just not going to give you a lot of time of day later. So
And that's frustrating. And when people accumulate, the one reason I don't hold is because I don't have room to.
Yeah, that's valid.
There's no space for me to continue to store stuff, and I don't want anything that people order to get broken. But the other thing is, and I think Misty said this before, and a few other resellers, is by the end of the month, when people do the whole month holds, the purchaser will have like $100 bill, and then suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, I can't do that, and then they back out of all these items that you've been holding. And so that's another reason why that's tricky. And I just had an incident with eBay. I was telling Patrick about this. There was a seller that I bought an oil can from, and he never shipped. Well, it says it's awaiting the shipment, so USPS has not gotten the box. It's been over 2 months now, and the seller won't communicate back to me. He will not talk to me. He will not answer questions about other items. He's just completely ghosting me. The item has not arrived. It was fairly expensive because it was an oil can. And eBay will not help me because it is outside of their policy time, because eBay claims I got the box. And I'm like, no, I didn't get the box. So communication is everything. And if that seller had just reached out to me and said, I'm going to be delayed in shipping, okay, fine. I'll be happy to wait. I'm in no hurry to get it. It's for my collection. But if you don't message me or tell me, and now I'm suddenly out like $75, yeah, I've got a big problem with that.
And I agree with Blackie. I feel that she's been scammed. Unfortunately, I have also been scammed. This is also just like an unsolicited PSA. If you are working, and I'm going to say it anyway, and I do not mean to offend. I literally do not know anyone who does this, but there may be people in the chat who do. So I don't mean to offend anyone. But if you're ever, as a buyer, if you are ever asked by your seller to send them money through PayPal, friends and family, you are not working with a seller. You are working with a potential scammer. And I learned very early on, it's a kind of a twofold problem. I bought something from an Instagram sale, sent it the money via PayPal, friends and family. And then this had nothing to do with the seller. This was entirely me. At the time, I was a new seller myself, and my money was going into PayPal. So I had money sitting in PayPal. So some people may not know that you can do this, but you can pay with your balance within PayPal. So, you don't have to use a credit card. You can pay within PayPal. You don't have to. So you don't have to have a PayPal account, but I did. So I paid this person $92, if I remember correctly. But I did it through friends and family, and I did it as a transfer, and I never got the item. And same thing, the person ghosted me, blocked me on their Instagram page. I'm just like, can you at least send me proof that you sent it? Because it was a Huckster license. It was super lightweight. So it probably would have been sent first class mail. So it's like entirely possible it was stamped. Like maybe he didn't track it. But I at least needed to know, did you send it? And if you did, is there proof? And there was no response. There's no way to see if they read. So I tried to file a claim with PayPal, and PayPal's response was, well, you paid this as a friend and family. So if he's one of your friends, you need to deal with him. And so I'm like, okay, right there, like I'm totally screwed because I don't know this guy from Adam. Yeah. But then PayPal was very helpful. They said, however, if that's, not possible, you can go back to your credit card company and apply it as fraud. Well, I didn't use a credit card. I used PayPal. And they're like, yeah, we can't help you. So it's like exactly what Catherine's saying. Friends and family offers no protection. And as a seller, you should not offer it. And as a buyer, you should really, really question if a seller is telling you or asking you to do that. This is a business. Even though this is a side hustle for me, I just got my 1099. This is real money. This is real taxes. This is real bookkeeping. Like I need to keep track of my $200 of, packing materials because I need to write that off as a cost. Because according to my 1099, I basically have a full-time income just doing this on the side. Well, I don't. It's not that much in profit. It's all shipping costs and all that kind of stuff. So it's friends and family. If a seller's asking, they're either trying to scam you, they're trying to scam eBay or Etsy, or they're trying to scam the U.S. government and not paying taxes. I don't have a lot of patience for any of that. It is what it is. And people can do it. People can choose what's important to them and what's not. But it is one of those cases that you start having a bad experience and you think it's a scam and you start wondering, well, how can I learn? Like it happened. I've lost that money. Katie may have lost her money.
Yep.
How do you prevent this from happening again? In my case, I will never do friends and family again. Like I just won't pay anybody with friends and family. If you're a seller, then you're going to take the hit and you're going to pay a fee because that's what the fee is there for. The fee is there so PayPal will take time out of their schedule to help you file a claim. But if it's a friend and family, they're like, well, they didn't make any fee or they didn't make as much of a fee. So they're not going to help you. So it's like the more you know, like it's just all about educational stuff.
Yep. It's all.
Yeah, absolutely, Michelle. That's a totally different thing. Like if you're just your roommates and you're paying, like you need to transfer money to your roommate to pay the rent. Well, yeah, you can do friends and family. Like I'm not saying friends and family as a concept is a problem. But as a as a reseller, like I'm sorry, I make Katie pay her freaking invoice. Like, because Katie, one of my best friends, but I'm like, honey, you're paying my invoice. I'm not doing friends and family, because I need to track it. I've sold to people locally and I will still invoice them. I don't want to deal with cash because I need to be able to track these sales because I then need to be able to have them say, yes, I paid this much for these items and this is what I sold them for. But this is what I paid for shipping them. And yes, I collect taxes, sales tax, and I'm shocked by people that don't, and a lot of people don't. But it's a gradual thing. So why did I get on that soapbox? Sorry. But yeah, so internationally, I can only imagine what kind of scams you could be, subject to because suddenly it could take months for something to ship to you, and you wouldn't even know if you're being scammed. Well, if they send the wrong item, like it could take forever by the time you can reply.
And that's the hard thing with eBay. When you check the seller's reviews and they have a lot of good reviews, it's like, okay, well, and this person had been a member since 2014 and it seemed like they had dealt with other oil cans. I know, okay, this person seems legit, but then the can, that's another thing. Like I should have known, okay, why is this can so cheap? Because $75 does not seem cheap to most of you guys watching, but for certain oil cans, that's like buying it for $1 in the world of how expensive some of these oil cans go for. I mean, Patrick and I were just looking at an auction the other day that has some amazing oil cans up for sale. And the auction hasn't even started. And a few of them that I know are pretty tough to find are already up to $400 or $500 just for one can because, these were meant to be thrown away. But I should have known this can was like suspiciously cheap.
We hadn't really planned on this being a tax discussion because, again, I am not precursor to everything. Don't take my advice. Like, don't just because I say it or just because what I do does not make it right. But I have gleaned. I did run a family business for 10 years, a retail business. So there are things that I've gleaned from different things. So the way I am not an S Corp, I am not an LLC. I am a sole proprietor. So there are tax implications from that. I feel safe doing that. When I had a retail business with my wife at the time, we were an S Corp, but that was because it was a physical brick and mortar location that we had to protect our liability. That if somebody fell on our floor and got injured by a falling bookcase or something, that we had to be protected so they couldn't go after our house. So there's different tax implications for that. In what I'm tracking, I don't do it as well as I should. I did better in 2021 than I did in 2020. I need to do better in 2022. But what I'm doing, and this came from a glean from several conversations and a couple of other resellers of what they do. Again, not like, oh, that person said this, therefore that's what I'm doing. No, it's just like, okay, this kind of makes sense. So really what I keep track of, particularly when if I can buy anything that I can get a receipt for, where it gets dicey is when I'm like buying at a garage sale or something like that. But anything that I get a receipt for, I will track those. But what I do not do is I tried in the very beginning and it was too complicated. I wasn't using QuickBooks. My ex-wife did all the QuickBooks stuff. So I didn't want to deal with that. But what I was trying to do is like, okay, I bought this vase for X dollars and then it would just sit in a spreadsheet until I sold it. And then I would go back and say, and what I feel, and so a lot of this I feel is in the spirit of what I'm supposed to be doing. What I've started doing is I will keep track of everything that I bought. And in each month, I will say, okay, I bought 52 items and my total cost of goods for those 52 items was $150 or whatever. And then when I go to do my taxes at the end of the year, I will say I sold 522 items, I will go back and find receipts for the first 522 items that I bought, and those are my cost of goods. So this might be like, this will be in the early cost of goods for 2022. I may still have it for sale in 2023, but it would go in my cost of goods. It would probably just end up as a receipt for what I sold. So I'm basically saying, like, I'll have everything. I still have all the physical receipts. In some cases, I've even tried to write receipts when I go to a garage sale. I'm like, okay, I bought 10 items and the total was $10. So it's like, okay, each item was $1. And then I just don't get too hung up on, well, did this item sell for $5 and that item sold for $9? I just end up saying, okay, at the end of the month, I sold 10 items. I bought 10 items. This is what I sold them for. I may have sold 10 different items than what I bought, but I just have a running total of like 10 receipts that I have. I don't know if that's right or not. But it kind of works. It's what I did for 2021 and it seemed to work. And it's like, I do feel a lot from when we worked with the accountant for the business. A lot of it's the spirit. It's like, if I do ever get audited, it's like, okay, here's my paperwork. Here's what I tracked. Here's how I was tracking it. Should I do it differently? Whatever. I don't know. But I don't carry a true inventory. And that's the difference. When I was an S corporation, I would have an inventory. So at the end of the year, we would say we had a fabric store. So we would say we bought 5,000 bolts of fabric over the course of the year. And this is and in the building, we take a physical inventory. And in the building, we have 4,300 bolts. And then it was totally different. Here, it doesn't matter that I may have bought something 2 years ago. That value is not sitting in my inventory. It's literally just an item sitting in my garage. So until I sell it. So then when I sell it, I can write off the cost. So that's the difference. Again, do not say, well, Patrick said,
talk to your tax people and
talk to your tax people, but that's how I'm doing it. So lumping the cost of goods into one cost and then saying the profit is that at the end of the year, kind of. So like, I literally have an envelope that I fill each month. So like, this is what I'm filling in for January. And then at the end of January, I will say, okay, I have all these receipts. I purchased 72 items and the total cost for all of these items is $872 or whatever. And then at the end of the year, I'll say, okay, well, I sold 512 items. I will go and I will find 512 receipts or 512 item receipts. Those are my costs. I just don't sit there and say item A, and here's what item I sold for. I'm just like, here's A through triple Z, and then here's 1 through 500, and do it that way. So.
And Angela's asking if you
yeah, let's see how far that one goes, Roger. I'm sure everyone will just like, oh, sure, totally. If I know exactly what the huckster is talking about, let's listen to him.
Angela's asking if you can't remember what you paid for something. What do you do about that?
Guess, or it doesn't get included in my costs. And trust me, there are plenty of items I feel it's going to work itself out in the end. Like, I still have receipts from 2020. When I started doing that for 2021, I had started it in 2020. Well, I suddenly had receipts that I didn't use. So it's like, okay, so should I carry those now for 2022, or do those like get thrown away? Because some of those items are now gone. So like, I'm going to focus on 2021 costs. I feel at some point what I'm tracking that way, because also you have to figure, I buy for my mystery boxes. Mystery box may end up having like, depending on which box, it's going to have anything from 10 to 20 items in it. So when I kind of have to estimate. So when I'm doing the taxes, I'll be like, okay, I sold 100 mystery boxes. On average, they each had 10 items or whatever magic number I'm going to use. So therefore, I need to take 1,000 receipts. Well, I need to make sure that I've tracked it that way, so that like, I didn't say I bought one, like, I using my one. Well, like, say I end up dividing up the cards. If I end up putting one of these in each of my mystery boxes, well, then I can't have a cost that says this was one item that cost me $20. I'm going to have to say it was 50 items that cost me $20, because then I'm going to divide it up. So I do have to keep track of that kind of stuff. And that's why I tend not to do, I keep receipts for everything, like, everything that I order, all that kind of stuff. That's why I really haven't done a lot through garage sales or,
that's
sales, things like that are like just kind of off the cuff, because in some cases you can drop a lot of money that then really doesn't become trackable. And some of my more valuable sales have been from those. Well, I can write it on a Post-it note that I bought 3 items and spent $500. Well, how does the tax department know that I didn't? I could have spent $5, but I said I spent 500. How do they know? So I want a receipt where I can, but it's not always practical. So
Well, some of the early sales I did from certain places I shop here, my problem is they didn't have receipts available because they were either, like cash only, or I'm like, well, then how do I track these? Because you can't if there's
Yep.
not a physical thing. And then trying to remember, like forever ago, well, how much was that? Or especially when people give you like a deal on a whole lot of things, and with particularly brooches or whatever, you're like, okay, now wait a minute.
Yep. And I think Catherine's using the right term. I didn't even know the term is the cost averaging. And I do want to say that Crazy Lamp Lady has talked about this. So that's one of the places that I first started hearing about it, but it does make it a little bit simpler, because then you can say, all right, I just bought a lot of 10 brooches and I paid $20. Well, it's $2 a brooch. You can sit there and say that that's what your cost. So like I don't go through and say, all right, now I'm going to track, this is the black ebony rose brooch, and this is the blue, whatever, delphinium blossom. And this is what I just say, I have this was 10 items that I paid $20 for. And then at some point when I go to pull my receipts, I'm like, okay, I need 512 receipts. Those get pulled in. And so and where it gets dicey is, like I said, I mean, I sold a $300 punch bowl. Well, that punch bowl cost me $150. So it's like, I kind of going to have to play the cards a little bit to make sure that receipt, I do want to go into the same time zone as when I sold it, because I don't want $150 cost to artificially inflate my average per item cost. But I also don't want to have a $300 sale that shows I only paid $1 for it, on average, because then I'm going to be paying taxes on that. So in the end, I'm hoping it's all going to average out. At this point, I do not have a professional tax accountant. I should, because the dollar amounts that I'm approaching, it worries me a little bit. Like when I first started, there was no tax person that would have had the time of day to even spell my name to look it up, as much less audit me. Now that with the 1099s, and there's a lot of people up in arms that, Etsy is now issuing 1099s for anything over $600. Well, you should have been reporting taxes anyway. People are up in arms because now it's tracked. And so I find it somewhat fascinating in a very macabre way. Like, okay, the fact that you are screaming so much about this basically shows me you've been trying to rip off the government forever. So it's like, I realize no one loves paying taxes, but that's, when you guys pay us money, that's what we're tracking. So,
and YouTube will send you a form too when you sign up for YouTube. When you get monetized, they make you put in your tax ID information so that they can send that to you.
Bren, you can be my accountant. I'll pay you. If you're willing to figure out my envelopes, I will pay you to be my accountant. But yeah, in the end, and a lot of what I do is kind of what Catherine is talking about, is at some point you do approach it from a dollar cost averaging, where you just say, okay, in general, and particularly when you're dealing with the auctions. And I talked about this a little bit. I did a video a couple of weeks ago. I'd done an auction haul at a different auction than what I'm showing here. And there were cases where I kind of overpaid, or not really overpaid, but paid more than I would have wanted to in some items. But then other items I paid way less. The dollar cost averaging is actually a really way to do that, a good way to look at that, because then it's like, okay, I kind of got a good deal on this one. So it kind of helps me cover the cost of this other one, where if I really tracked it, it'd be like, okay, I actually, with my fees and everything, ended up paying $20 for this item. I'm probably only going to be able to sell it for 25 or 30. Well, but if you consider the other items are going to sell for 10 or 15 and I only paid 50 cents, well, that kind of helps balance it out. So that's why it happens that way. I'm absolutely aware that true accountants would have heart palpitations with the way this is structured. But again, I do feel like from the spirit of thing, I'm fully aware that I will pay taxes, or I'm not going to say I want to, but I have the expectation. I have money set aside to pay taxes. But because I have a full-time job, it's unlike some of the full-time resellers, I don't have to pay my taxes quarterly. because I'm already paying taxes every paycheck, so in the end of the day, it all balances. It all depends. We all do it differently. It is what it is. I don't know how we got going down that path, but there are different ways. And I don't think anyone, even I think like Michelle said, Alex and Aaron has showed that. I don't think they've ever said, this is how you should do it. We are your tax advisors. Like, it's just really like, hey, this is how we do it. And they do it full time. They go through thousands of items. And at some point it's it's being pragmatic. And so again, if it's in the spirit that you're, if I get audited and all I could show is a stack of Post-it notes, look, this is what I paid for everything. Okay, I would expect to be completely fined. But I've got envelopes bursting with physical receipts from Goodwill, from auction houses, from eBay, from Etsy, from Amazon. Like, because I've got to track all my costs. Like, I just had to buy more masking tape. As I was talking when I was logging on with Katie, I just gotten the tape came today, and I was putting that into. I have a spreadsheet that I'm like, okay, I'm putting that in there, and that receipt goes into a little envelope, so that way I can then say this is what I spent in packing materials. Because even little things like that, people that say, "Oh, I get everything for free," you don't get your packing tape for free. You don't get your masking tape for free. You don't like. There's tons of stuff you don't get for free if you do business cards. Yeah, per business card may not cost you much, but you're still dropping $20 or $30 every time you print a box of cards. Like, there is a cost associated with all this. And if you're truly paying taxes as a business, you're going to write all that stuff off because the cost of doing business. So, God, I hate talking taxes. Why do we just talk about that? So let's see. The other I wanted to show, because actually I wanted to ask your guys' opinion, and I'm not sure this is going to show up. This is actually something else I picked up. And I'm going to try and show this the best I can. I'm not sure my camera is going to show it. It's lifting off its board a little bit, but it appears to be, it feels like it's almost a fabric, like maybe it's almost a canvas. And there was a place on here, down at the very, very bottom, you can see there's almost like a string. So like it's the edge of a canvas that's coming off. Sorry, it's focusing on my face. See if I can get this to show you. You can kind of see there's that little loose string kind of hanging off there. I don't know what this came from. I don't know if it came with labels. Isn't this gorgeous? Statue of Liberty, that's Bartlett pear label, and it's massive. It came with that. It came with this Cambria orange label. I mean, these are really big. So these would have been like for the crate ends. But then this was included in it. So I did a little bit of digging. So Frera is the name of the motorcycle. So I'm not familiar with Frera. I did find the image that they said they thought it was from the 20s, which based on her, I would agree.
I would agree with that.
Probably from the 20s. But I don't know what I have. I don't know if it's an ad or if it was a piece of art. And I don't know if it's original or if it's a reproduction. And I don't know how to tell. So if anybody has any, it looks like at once upon a time it was mounted on this board. So there's a little bit of a tackiness on the back of this that's also on the board. So I think it was glued on. If you look really, really close at the top, you can see there's a black line. So it does look like it was cut out of something. Like follow the black line. If you look really, really close, it does kind of have a linen finish to it. Can we see that? You can see it in the border. Yeah, you can see it in the border better than in the picture itself. But so it's got some lint. I just don't know what this is. And so I don't know if anybody's got any suggestions on that.
I will say I've seen that Frera before on one of my advertising pages for Petroliana and, automobile related things. I don't know how you date something or prove that something like that's authentic, and that's
exactly how to prove that's authentic.
Really hard with advertising. I don't know if that would have been a store display that was framed.
I didn't think
a little bit smaller for that, but I don't know.
It's not an easel or anything. It does look like the back has a really high gloss to it, so it makes it. This makes me feel this is newer, so that it was an older piece. Yeah, it was an older piece that was attached to something newer. Yeah. So I do think there's some age to this, but I just don't know. I don't know enough about this style of advertising because it's not paper. Like, this isn't something that came out of a newspaper or a magazine. It's clearly some sort of a linen fabric or a woven. I don't think it's canvas, but that little loose string is throwing me off a little bit. And I can't really find it.
What does he have in his mouth?
His goggles have slipped down.
Okay.
And so she's basically using it as a ball gag, which, that puts this in a whole new level of ad. But yeah, all in the attic treasures maxi pad, I believe it is supposed to be his eye goggles that he's now cutting in his teeth. I do want to go back to a question that just popped up in the chat because I think it's a valid question to ask. Jay Martin is asking, how do you handle the difference in shipping costs? Okay, I will say how I handle it. Be 100% honest. There will be times that I discover like, oops, I overestimated. But again, because the thresholds are every 8 ounces or a pound, the difference tends not to be very much. If it ends up being that I overcharge someone by $2 or more, I will give them a credit. I will go in and actually refund them that difference. If it's under $2, I figure at some point, like you're going to get the opposite benefit. At some point, I'm going to underbill you, and I'm not going to go back and charge you more. So yes, it's entirely possible someone has never been underbilled and they get overbilled and they're not getting the benefit every 50 cents or 75 cents. I'm a Libra. I'm very big into balance, but I'm also being pragmatic. It takes time. It costs money to process those refunds through eBay, unless it's significant. And there's one time I did it and I'm like, okay, what was I smoking? Because I overcharged by $8.
Oh,
and
man.
I'm like, what did I put into this thing? Like but the seller or the buyer didn't even question it. But I'm sitting there looking, and I have little forms. I have little forms. Hold on. That I do for all my live sales. So you can see, that's why we always ask for your YouTube name plus your real name, your email, your address. You can see there's a place in there for estimated shipping, the invoice amount, the box size I'm going to use, and then there's another place for estimated weight and actual shipping. So I will know what I estimated and what you pay. I will also then know what the actual ends up being, because I will also know if the weight changed. I don't have a place for actual box size, but there will be times that I have to rewrite the box size because I was wrong. And so I just know what the difference is. So that's how I will know right off the bat. If it's an estimated shipping cost and suddenly the actual is significantly less, I'll just hop in. I won't even tell the seller. I will just hop onto eBay or PayPal and refund the $3 or $2.50 or whatever it is. And then there's a way when you do the refund, there's like a little note section. I'll just say, I'm sorry, I overcharged you for shipping. Please accept my apologies. Here's your refund. I've never had anyone balk at it. I've had people say, oh, you didn't have to do that. But yeah, I did. It's like, no one makes money off of shipping. Like that is not what anyone is here to do. But so I'm actually very proud of these.
I have a sheet like that too, Patrick, but not as organized as you are. You're excellent with your little boxes.
Yeah. So, it helps me. It keeps me organized, so there were cases at one point I was having problems with my printer. And so there was at one point I didn't have these. So I was trying to just do it. Like I was kind of winging it. Oh my God, that was a nightmare. I literally had to send somebody an email like 2 weeks later going, yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to invoice you. It's like your box has been sitting here waiting for you to pay for it. And I was getting annoyed because I'm like, this box has been sitting for 2 weeks. Why haven't they paid? And I suddenly discovered I never sent the invoice. I'm like, because there's a little thing up here on the top, invoice sent, invoice paid, merchandise sent. I keep track. Now I don't keep these anymore, so I don't check the merchandise sent anymore, but I used to keep these because then I'd have a record. So if rare occasion, but it has happened where pirate ship comes or the U.S. Postal Service comes back and says, you said that weighed 2 pounds and we say it weighed 200. I'd be like, no, bitch. I'm sorry. No, this was a brooch. It's like, it did not weigh $200. Yeah. So, but I just saw a chat. Somebody was just saying, they're like, the U.S. Postal Service has come back to me and saying something that I said weighed, like this was not me, but the comment, something that I said weighed 5 pounds. They're saying weighed 25 pounds. and it was like a cross-country shipment. And so they're saying I owe all of this money. What do I do? And there were like several people were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, you're kind of screwed, because there are people that say, oh yes, you're supposed to take a picture of every box, and you're supposed to take a picture of what's in the box, and you're supposed to take a picture of the box on the scale. I'm like, oh my God, do you ship one item a year? There's no way I can do that. That's insane. But it's like, you almost would need it, because then you would say like, okay, well, here's what's in the box or whatever. So I was keeping those sheets, and it was one of those cases, just out of my own edification, I would then know, okay, this is what I shipped or whatever. But at some point, like, I still do this on the side. I had like a box of these stacked up. I'm like, okay, this is insane. I don't need these. Why would I need these? So I don't keep them anymore.
I was keeping mine too, and I had a folder that was just growing, and I'm like, but I always take the sheet, like when you guys email me from a live sale, if it's an email as a new buyer or something's changed, I will print that email out, and then I have a space on the bottom, usually of the email, where I can keep track of things, and each little sheet. And even if you don't send an email, because I already have your information, you get a sheet. It goes with that box until the thing is completely shipped out. That way nothing gets mixed or confused. And the way I do things is a little differently than Patrick, although I think Patrick's very smart by not sealing the box until it's been paid for, because I've gotten burned on that, where I've done the wax seal, wasted one of these cards, but I usually seal everything up, and then I will go and weigh it and get the weight, and I'll write that on the sheet, and I'll write the measurement, and then I'll write the shipping cost, and then I go into invoice the person, and then I still put that with the box. So you'll sometimes see a photo on Instagram of all my boxes, stacked up or whatever, and I've got those little sheets kind of hanging out from the bottoms of them, because I've stacked them with their sheet. And then until they go into my big wagon to go out to UPS or USPS, they get their sheet. That way I get nothing mixed up. But then after that, I throw the sheets away. And if it's a new customer, their information is now in Pirate Ship. So I don't need to. I was writing all of the addresses down in a physical address book, and that got to be too much. And I'm like, nope, Pirate Ship saves them. I don't need to do that.
Yeah, and even this, there's a place for the address. I've kind of softened on that, but what I do still use is it's all a process and how you do it. And I do want to address before it goes away. All in the Attic Treasures had the comment was saying they'd never received an estimate. It is that comment. What Katie just said is important to note. Not all of us do this the same way. So in Katie's case, you're not getting an estimate. You're getting the true shipping cost. So there would be no question. I'm giving you an estimate, but I'm not telling you it's an estimate, because I'm holding myself to that amount. So it may be an estimate in the sense that I haven't sealed the box and I haven't necessarily packed, but I will sit there. I will physically, I don't have anything within my reach right now, but I will physically, whatever gets sold, I will take that item. I will find the box that it's going to go in, whether it's a standard size box or it has to be a recycled box. I will find the box. I will then put those together on my scale. And so I will say, okay, the item by itself in this box is going to weigh 2.5 pounds. Based on how fragile that item is, I will then add between 0.5 pound and 1 pound for the packing material. And so then I will say, okay, it weighs 2.5 pounds minimum, because that's what the box plus the item is. And then I may round up, because again, keep in mind, this is like, people don't think about it. You don't pay a different price, whether it's 2 pound 9 ounces or 2 pounds 15 ounces. So I will basically make the decision based on that package. Okay, it weighs 2 pounds 8 ounces. This thing has a stem on it. I'm going to use a crap ton of paper, which is heavier than bubble wrap. I'm going to add 1 pound. I'm going to assume I'm going to add more than 8 ounces. So then I will estimate 3 pounds 8 ounces. There have been times, particularly with the mystery boxes, there have been times where I've estimated, okay, that's going to go up to 4 pounds. And then by the time I'm done, it's 5 pounds. There was one time I estimated a box at 5 pounds and it ended up being 9. Like, wow. Again, what was I doing? I just was I not paying attention? Like, what did I forget to put something in the damn box? It happens, but I don't ever go back to the buyer and say, oh, sorry, I forgot to charge you for this. You need to pay me more. That's on me. So I don't say it's an estimate. So I don't know if it's common, but you wouldn't know it's an estimate until you suddenly get a refund. You'd be like, how did you give me $3 back? Like, why would you have not known that? Because what I gave you was an estimate, so, but I don't, this is like the first time I've been really, I don't hide it, but that's like really the first time I've really talked about it. So what Catherine's saying is your invoice is an estimate, because I will say I leave the box open. It's two ways. Yes, there have been times I've been cheated. That has been relatively small. I've never blocked anyone in my sales, but there are people that my moderators know I'm not going to sell to. But that is a very small number. So what's more common is this idea of keeping the box open. Trust me, if I have sealed your box and then you ask me to keep it open to add something else, I'm not going to be happy, because that means your box is not going to be pretty. And that sounds ridiculous, but that upsets me. And I've actually
Patrick worked hard.
Yeah, it's like I really packaged that to make it look nice, and now you are asking me to cut it open to slide something else in, and I get it, but I'm not happy about it. So that's why I just tend not to tape them shut. So it's like sometimes, and if it's something that like there are a couple of times if you bought 4 items, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and wrap them all individually, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in a box just to make sure, because I'm not sure, is this going to fit in a shoebox size, 14 by 8.8 by 7.38 by 5.25. I hate that I know that by heart. Or am I going to have to put it into the bigger one? Like I'll figure that out in advance so there's less question mark. But I don't always do that. So that's the difference.
And when I do, for me, which is different again for everyone, but I take all of my items from the sale, put them onto the other side of the counter, because I have a pretty big kitchen island, which I'm fortunate to have, which is great for shipping. So that means I lose the use of my kitchen for a while, but at least, I've got the space. So I will move all the items that were on this half of the counter for the sale over to the other side. And then I go through and I will make up the sheets. And then I'll work, usually the person that got multiple items, I do their packaging first, because I don't want to get confused and leave anything out. So I work on their items first. I put all of the things in one box, sealed up, and I will box everything up. And then I go back and invoice later. So once I get the big stack of boxes that are done, then I go through an invoice, and I do not pay for that label until the person pays me, unless it's friend mail or something that I'm just paying the label for that I'm going to ship out anyway. Then I'll go ahead and buy it and put it on. But I wait until that person pays the invoice, and then I'll print the label and then take it to the post office. Now, I do not take, like if I had just one person pay, say on Monday, and I'm still waiting for the rest of the live sale orders, I don't make a special trip to the post office for that one item. I would love to think that I could do that for each customer, but I like to take all of them at one time. So, unless it's like everyone's paid except for one person, well, then I'll go ahead and take that big lot. But I try to wait and then drive them all over there.
Well, I'm very lucky, and I recognize this, and I offer my postal people beverages in the summer and stuff. I gave Amazon gift cards for Christmas. I'm in a townhome development, but I'm on an end unit, luckily, and mine faces the centralized postal box for all the units. I used to have to, if you don't ship, you wouldn't necessarily know this. You can ask for the U.S. Postal Service to do a pickup at your house. So when I started doing this, I would go in and I would ask, and I wouldn't necessarily have a shipment every day. So I would maybe have 2 or 3, because I wasn't doing this all the time. So I maybe only have 2 or 3 a week. And I was doing this for a while, and then I missed request one time. I put the request in after the deadline. And so one time they were picking up, and they're like, hey, you know what? You don't have to put in a request. We can just check. If you've got something on your front porch, we'll pick it up. If not, we'll just drive by. And I've this a super nice, I like to share this story because it's just something you don't hear all the time. There was a point in time where I can't remember if I was on vacation or I just wasn't selling for a while. The post guy actually came up and wanted to make sure I was okay. He hadn't he hadn't seen a shipment out for 2 weeks, and he thought something was wrong. And I'm like, wow, okay. That's nice of you.
Wow. That is
a little stalkerish, but that's nice of you. So I am very lucky. So I have the issue that if it's not out when the post office comes, which could be anywhere between 9 and 11, I can't, well, I could, but I'm not going to get it to you that day. It's going to happen the next day when they come to pick up the next day. And I think that's usually fine. I even have it set up, I do everything through Pirate Ship. I have it set up on my email confirmations don't go out for 12 hours. And I do that on purpose because things can change in that period of time. I could suddenly discover that, they want to do an open, who knows, but there's been times I've needed to change something. So I have a 12-hour delay set in my email confirmations. And the main reason I do that is if I do the packing at like midnight, you get an email confirmation saying, oh, okay, cool, here's my confirmation. And then you click on it to track it. Well, you're not going to need tracking because it's still sitting in my living room. So like I wait until then, by the time you get the email, it will have already been picked up and scanned and you'll see that, oh, okay, it's left. So that's just one of the weird things, but I'm in a very unique situation. I don't have to do drop-offs. So
yeah, I don't have that living in an apartment. Our mail guys, I don't like to say anything negative about USPS because the guy before this current mailman was extremely delightful and such a nice guy. He even left a key in my mailbox for me to go down to the little parcel locker and put in packages that needed to go out, because I explained to him what I do, on the side with YouTube and reselling and whatever. And he was super nice about it. Current guy, not as friendly, but of course this is very rude. So I have found some really nice people at the UPS store that take great care of me because I come in and I'm sure they're like, oh, not this lady again with all of her million packages. But they're so friendly, to help with that. But I love that Pirate Ship sends out those emails for you, which is incredibly helpful because for a while before I knew Pirate Ship did that, I was actually sending the tracking number manually to each person. And I'm like, why am I wasting my time doing this? Pirate Ship does it.
And if you sell through eBay or Etsy, they will also send the confirmation to close your order in eBay and Etsy, which is fantastic. Because in eBay is a little bit stricter than Etsy, but in both you have expected service requirements of when you're supposed to ship. And in some cases, you could set it for whatever you want, but in some cases people have eBay set for like a day. Well, I don't. I think eBay I have for 3 and Etsy I think I have for 3 to 5. It's just the way I think eBay is only 3 and then the other one has a range. But anyway, I need that because back pre-COVID, I was traveling more. And so I needed that flexibility because I could I could be driving to Kansas and suddenly I get an order. It's like, well, I'm not home for 4 days. So this is going to sit and wait for me to get home. I can't do it. So the minute I create the label, there's a confirmation that goes over and it shows that even though it's still physically sitting in my living room, it then triggers that order is quote unquote closed. I wanted to show it. Jabe Martin is having some great questions coming in. And I don't know, we may cover this or not, but in the shipping episode, I'm thinking like these are things we probably should cover. I will speak only for myself. I have no issue with ShipStation. I have no issue. You can even do labels directly from eBay and Etsy. Mm-hmm. I do not do any of the other options solely for the fact at the end of the year, I want to be able to push one button on Pirate Ship and find out every single order that I shipped in one place. I don't care if I could possibly have saved 10 cents here and 25 cents there. Peace of mind and having to manually pull all that stuff together is not worth it to me. If Pirate Ship were suddenly not cost competitive, that'd be totally different. But very rarely do I see issues with what Pirate Ship is charging. I want to be able to say at the end, because you can also do that quarterly. You can set whatever level you want. And I want to be able to go in and say, okay, from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, what did I spend in shipping? And it spits out $1 amount, and I can put that into my little spreadsheet. So when I go to do my taxes, I'm like, okay, my 1099 says I collected this much money from PayPal, but guess what? This much of it was shipping. So right off the bat, I get to write that off as a cost of doing business because I didn't make any money on that. But if I don't track it, or if I have to track it from 4 separate places,
that would just be a nightmare.
It'd be crazy. So to me, the simplicity of having it all in one place, I you never say never, but I will never change it because I can't think of anything that ShipStation or any other product could offer me that would make up for that simplicity. So, and like I said, it's not like I'm using the most expensive option and I'm taking advantage of my buyers. Like I still feel everyone's being taken care of. I just need that sanity.
Yeah, and it's nice that Pirate Ship keeps all those addresses too, because PayPal, and I'm sure that they do this. I've never used ShipStation before, but one of my grievances with PayPal, which I don't have many because PayPal is really easy to use, is if you're doing a first-time customer email inside PayPal, it doesn't save it. Now, it does if you go to the extra step and hit add new customer, but when we're all invoicing and we're in a hurry and we're trying to get this done, a lot of times we don't do that. And I don't. And so sometimes I'm like, I know I've bought, or shipped to this person, and I might have their information in Pirate Ship, but I may not have their email because sometimes, I'll forget to add it to Pirate Ship. So I'm like, okay, I know I have, and it's just the annoyance of having to type it in. And PayPal, I wish that they would save it for every customer that you add in through the invoicing tab, even if it is the first time. Now, once you do it, I think it's 3 times, it saves it.
Okay.
But I like the Pirate Ship. The minute you enter an address or an email or anything in it tracks it and it saves it and it's there.
And I would say, so Cheryl's asking about PayPal. I would think that might be the shipping station thing,
Yep.
because PayPal, the way I'm structured, PayPal would have no idea that I made the shipment. Like I don't cross connect anything from PayPal to Pirate Ship. So and there was a comment earlier, which is worth underscoring, that there's an option within Pirate Ship. What I do is I use the rate option. Like I do the rates. So I'm not actually creating a label. I'm not doing anything, and I'm not buying the shipping cost until the invoice is paid. So Michelle's saying is critical. That yes, and even in Katie's case, like it's going to cost you $8.16 or whatever it is, you still aren't going to buy the shipping label, because if that customer flakes out on you, or they say, oh, hey, I saw Brooch in one of your haul videos, can you add that? Well, Brooch probably would be okay, but something heavy, you would have to redo the entire shipping label. And yes, you can get refunds, but it just becomes more complicated. So yes, same thing. I don't buy anything until after I've been paid.
Yeah. Now I do create a label. And the reason I do that in Pirate Ship, and everyone does things differently, is that you're not actually buying the label, but it stores it. So what I used to do is do exactly what Patrick is talking about. And then I would have all these tabs open, which is fine, but that became kind of frustrating. And I figured out if you create a label and then you just go to create another label, it saves it in a list. So that way when I'm going
and then it says input needed. So that's when you actually buy it. Okay.
Yeah.
So but you're finishing the product. In my case, I may have the wrong weight. So I would never make a label, because at some point when I finish it, I may be like, God damn it, I was wrong. And then it goes waste. So yeah, so I have to do the only thing that you can't do on the rates. This is within Pirate Ship. The only thing you can't do on the rates, which is frustrating, is on a handful of occasions, I will send things media mail, and you cannot get a rate via media mail. You do have to go through the process of pretending like you're going to make a shipment. So you can still do it, but then I go back out and I delete it. So it's fine.
And media mail's under a weird tab in Pirate Ship.
Yes.
The first time I used it, I thought that Pirate Ship didn't offer that, but they do.
Right, it's hidden.
Yeah, it's hidden. So you look for that. And Pirate Ship is free for people that are just learning about it. You just make an account and it's yours to use.
Right. And so, yeah, I knew what you meant, Cheryl, but my PayPal, I would have to enter the tracking number into PayPal, which I don't. Like I said, I do not connect that. So in my case, the only email confirmation that I have going out is from Pirate Ship. So unless we're talking about something different, the only tracking that PayPal would do, really nothing. Like it will. The one thing, and this is I actually had a reseller get mad at me for sharing this publicly, and I don't care. So I'm going to share it again. We know when you've read an invoice.
Yep, exactly.
And the biggest mistake you can make, at least to me, don't lie to me. Don't tell me, no, I didn't see the invoice. And because I can tell, I know you've seen the invoice. And and I've had people just bald face, like, no, I never saw it. I'm like, oh my God, I can tell you what time and day you saw it. And it was like, it's not malicious. It's just, there's a big difference in if somebody's not paying a bill, there are certain resellers that take it to this level, certain that don't. But in my case, if I see you haven't paid it in a couple of days, and I'm not like super militant about it because it can take me a couple of days to get you the invoice. So if you haven't paid in a couple of days, the very first thing I'm going to go back and do is see if you've opened it. If you haven't opened it, all right, that's like that's one approach, because now it's kind of like, was it a new customer? Did I spell their email address right? Is there some change? I can do a little exploration. But if I see you've opened it, you're going to start getting aggressive emails from me, because it's like, okay, you need to pay this, or you at least need to respond. And I've had people that have just ghosted me after opening the email, or after opening the invoice. It's like, I have no patience for you. Like, I do not have the luxury of time to waste, on just somebody who's going to lie about it. So.
And that's the thing. I've found that I have mistyped someone's email before.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait a minute, but they haven't read the invoice. What is going on? And I've gone back, and it's especially true with emails that have a bunch of numbers and symbols, or like underscores and things that are easy to mess up. I've done that before. And then there's some where the person has never gotten them and they're going to spam. And then it's like the minute I send them a direct link, because you can do that through PayPal, and send it to them, they pay instantly. And especially this has happened with customers that I know are good. Like just the last live sale, there's a customer that buys a lot from me. And I'm like, well, they haven't paid in a week. Something's funky. And so then I sent the direct link, and they paid right away. And it was amazing. And the person messaged me, says, oh, well, I was waiting for your invoice. I was worried something happened. And it was just a case of she found it in spam later and had gone. So, it's not necessarily that people are ghosting you, although that does happen, and it's sad, but it is a fact. Definitely checking that little read thing is so helpful.
And we recognize, because there are people that, end up in multiple sales, and there's a lot of things going on. I mean, there's like the flip side, totally bizarre situation. First of all, remember, we're all human. You're human. I'm human. So we're all going to make mistakes. And so there was a case where I had a library, or I had a customer. The customer purchased something from me. Their first name was the same first name as somebody else. I inadvertently sent the invoice to the other person. Totally my fault. I knew the difference. I knew that they were absolutely 100% my fault. It ended up being a case where they didn't pay, which they shouldn't have, because they hadn't bought it. But whatever, they hadn't paid. I still had not made the connection that I sent it to the wrong person. So I sent a reminder, and that person ended up paying the invoice, saying, I'm so sorry. I didn't see your invoice. I really like to be on top of paying things. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. And I'm getting this email came in under the email account of this other person. And I'm like, you didn't buy from me. What is she talking about? And that's when I realized I had invoiced the wrong person, and she paid it. Like, she'd been in so many live sales, she didn't even remember that she hadn't been in my live sale for like 6 months. And she's like, oh, I must have bought something. So she paid it. I'm like, no, sorry, I got to refund you. And then I had to go to the other person and totally apologize, saying, I'm so sorry. I got your box sitting here. I invoiced the wrong person. And they laughed it off, and it was no big deal. So it's like, we all make mistakes. Yeah. And so it's like, there's going to be things will end up in your spam, that didn't normally go into your spam. We're all good. But that's where some resellers, particularly the bigger, where they're dealing with volume, you do have to take that into consideration. If they're trying to maintain 300 invoices a day or a week, they don't have the luxury of time either of trying to like, why? Well, they haven't. So I'm just going to cancel their order in 24 hours. I'm sorry. In 24 hours, I'm not even going to know that you haven't paid. Like, I just not on top of it that well. So you're going to have a little bit more flexibility. But again, it's communication is key. Don't abuse that, because it can go both ways. So
yeah,
don't make me aggressively emailing you.
Don't make me send a million reminders. But also with the reminders, PayPal does something weird where if it goes over midnight, it will automatically think that the person has not paid. And this has happened to me where I've gotten emails from people saying that they, quote unquote, got their feelings hurt because I sent them an invoice reminder literally like a day after I had sent them the invoice. And I didn't. I had to explain that PayPal sometimes does that. it sends random reminders, and it will do it if it's after a certain time, or if you send the invoice like after midnight, occasionally it will say late on there. And it's like, no, it's not that we're doing that to make you feel a certain way or to be upset. It's that PayPal's doing it. It's in PayPal.
And there are different ways to maintain it. Like I purposely have not set up my reminders for unpaid invoices because I recognize I may be just as guilty of doing something wrong that's delaying something that you will have gone a while before you get an invoice or a reminder from me.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to assume I don't like most people, but I do like to assume that if you wanted to buy this from me, that you wanted to buy this from me, and that we're going to figure this out. So if you haven't paid, I'm going to assume that there's a reason for it. And in some cases, it's a reason like, I had medical issues. I literally still have a box sitting in my closet from the Doxy fundraiser that has not been paid. And it's because the person had medical issues and they said they really wanted the item, but they couldn't pay it. And I'm like, okay. So I took the money that they would have paid and I put that out. I gave it to the Dachshund group myself and just hope, it's going to balance itself out in the end. Someday that person will be able to pay. If not, I'll deal with it. But they were very communicative. They were very apologetic. They were very, they're like, we understand if you can't do this. I'm like, hey, you're trying. You've let me know. I'm going to do what I can. It's the ones that ghost me. Those are the ones I get really frustrated with.
Yeah, so. Don't buy an item and then don't ever respond or view the invoice and just leave it unread and then never communicate. That is very frustrating because, again, it's our time. Time is money. And then on top of that, the materials that we spend in packing, and for me, the cards, I try to write everyone a personal handwritten note with my wax seal, which does cost money to get the wax and the little package toppers and all the things that we add extra to it, or tissue paper, wrapping. If you do that, that does cost. And when we have to go through and unwrap something, it's a complete waste of money and time, and it's frustrating.
And time is money. And that's the one thing that a lot of people tend to forget, including in some cases resellers. That we have to remind ourselves, like, okay, these are, I do the live sales to have fun. One of the reasons I didn't have a live sale tonight is because the last live sale, I didn't have fun. And I'm like, I need to figure this out. I don't know if it's a late night or whatever the case. And here we are even longer than normal, but this has been fun. I've had fun chatting with everyone and, this is great. We all have to be here for fun. So when it's like, we can have fun, but at some point it's like, okay, I just spent hours chasing this person down, or the one, and somebody just said it. I think it was Michelle, was that comment about, and then you see them in other chats or whatever.
Yes.
It's like, I'm not necessarily quite so malicious about, well, you haven't paid me, therefore you should never buy another thing until you do. Like, that's not pragmatic. But what I don't like is the idea, and this has been going on for a long time, where some resellers feel like they have to go into chats to stalk people and say, hey, did you see my email? Hey, did you get my invoice? One, I'm sorry. Again, the live sales are supposed to be fun. I don't want to see a business transaction going on while I'm in the chat with two other people, basically knowing, oh, look, she was ghosting him or whatever. Like, that shouldn't be out for public display. But some of the resellers, like, they have to do it because they feel it's the only way. And no one should put us in those situations. Like, there's no game to that. And if it's like because you do that because you like to have your name said out loud, trust me, your name is being said out loud in many ways you would not want it said out loud. Yeah. I have very select words for some of my people that I want to work with.
Well, and we resellers talk. I don't think people realize that, but we do share information to run our own businesses. And in this tight-knit YouTube live sale community, we sometimes, don't get an email from someone or something has happened, and we share that. And so that way we can all help each other, run our sales. And so that is something that does happen. And I do think with the chat, like Patrick said, it just kind of takes away from the sale. Because you're there to have fun, you're there to buy something, and it should all be about, not only the people in the chat, but the seller and the items they have. So just kind of a respect thing, I think.
And this is, and you segued into this one perfectly, and I definitely wanted to showcase this because this is a whole other matter. I don't, I like I said, we resellers do talk, and sometimes we hear talk. I will just say I don't know firsthand specifics of anybody, but I have heard examples. This should not be happening. This is not cool. Period. This is a whole different beast. And I will just say, I really hope people understand that this is the exception, is not the rule. Like, okay, people did wait a little bit longer for the Doxy shipments from the Doxy fundraiser because I was shipping 4 times as many boxes as I typically was shipping. But I was very upfront to everyone about that, saying, look, this is going to take me some time. And in some cases, I was actually invoicing in shifts because I was invoicing what I felt I could then ship. So in some cases, people didn't get invoices for a while because there's kind of like levels of this. And so I haven't gotten invoiced for 2 weeks of something I bought 2 weeks ago. Okay, that's bad. I'm not even going to play that. That's bad, but that's less bad than I got invoiced the next day. I paid the day after that, and now it's been 3 weeks, and it still hasn't even been shipped to me. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, that's fraud. Like there's no other term for that unless there's a discussion. Like there has to be something from the seller that says, hey, here's the deal. I got into the problem. I lost my job. I got COVID, whatever. My thing is communication is key, but it definitely goes both ways. So like, I've never done that. Like I've had a couple people they'll say, have you shipped that yet? And it's like, but that's like after, well, I remember one time I got that the day after the sale. They're like, I haven't seen the invoice yet. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, no, you haven't.
The day after the sale.
Neither has anybody else. Like the sale was 12 hours ago. So no, I have not done the invoices yet. So there was definitely exceptions to that. No one knows what everyone's going through. I don't want to get into any personal stuff. But there are definitely issues. It just it's unique to that seller. And I never want this philosophy to overflow and think that that's what the vintage resale community is, or that's what the YouTube, or that's what the Instagram, because those are definitely the exceptions. And I will just say, and this is all I can say, you need to speak with your pocketbook. Like if there's a seller or a group of sellers that are doing that or being that cavalier about shipments, you need to stop going to them. Like, I don't even know sure what we're talking about at this point, but you just need to stop, because if you continue to allow it to happen, one, it's just going to get worse, because if they can't ship what they have now and they go to sell 25 more items, well, they're not going to be able to ship those either. And they're not going to feel like there's anything wrong with what they're doing if people keep buying from them. The crook is going to stay a crook as long as they think they can be a crook. And I'm sorry, that's what you're doing. If you're not shipping for a month, it's bad, unless you're telling your buyers, hey, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to be able to do this for a couple of weeks. Do you want a refund? And most buyers would be like, no, that's fine. But then they know if it's been, and like I said, and that's different if it's like I've waited a little bit longer to get an invoice out. That's not normal, but I will tell people like, hey, you know what? I'm going out of town. Like I was doing live sales from, Nebraska. Hey, I'm not going to be able to do an invoice for a while because I don't have my scale. It's like, I'm not even going to weigh this. I don't have my boxes. People were totally cool about it. Everyone's like, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. No rush.
Yep.
Like it wasn't anything critical. So communication is key. But yeah, so this, you were 100% justified. If you are being given crap about paying an invoice quickly, you have every right to expect that shipment to go back out, to get an explanation of why it didn't. And that's like, I know that's out there. But it's,
I always tell my buyers when I'm going to ship. And I say, if you haven't gotten an invoice from me by this time, reach out to me, because I think something has gone wrong.
Right.
And there was a couple of times where I had an item that the person bought and it was an awkward size or shape. And I messaged them and I said, hey, I am working on your package. However, I need to get a custom box because now this is weird and I don't want it to break, obviously. And they were fine with that. They were like, sure, absolutely. But there's other times where people will email me, and Patrick, you brought this up, like a day after the sale. And I get people want to make sure the information got to us. That is absolutely a legitimate reason to message. But I've had people reach out and they're like, oh, I haven't gotten my invoice yet. I was starting to get worried. And I'm like, well, I don't do this like full time like Misty or Jeffrey or Jocelyn or some of the other people.
I don't have a staff.
That can spend all day working on this. So it's like most of the time I invoice over the weekend. So I'm not fast like that. I mean, I don't take forever to ship. I do think that it is important, if you're running any type of business, to get your invoices and your orders out as quickly as possible. But again, if you're doing this on the side, you don't need to necessarily get them out the next day. Like 2 or 3 days later isn't the end of the world. Just communicate that to your buyers. And then, also if you send us an email, and you're saying, well, why haven't I gotten my invoice? And just remember that some of us aren't doing this, every day, all day.
Right. And I think what Michelle is summarizing it is key. And it's one of and I mean, I'll just be honest, like it's 1 o'clock in the morning. No one's going to watch the replay. This is a frustration for me. Like in my case, as most people who know and I think everyone who's on here tonight, they all know my channel. They all know, how I do my sales. I don't do any offer ups. If other people want to do offer ups, that's fine. I personally find offer ups boring to watch. And I feel that you don't even sell as many items. I could sell more items if I stopped being so chatty. I could sell more items at a fixed claim price than offer ups. But I watch my number of viewers, dwindle, particularly now that I went into this late night sale. There are people that love the offer ups because they don't like to have to fight the internet lag. And it's just like, okay, I kind of get that. But if I'm trying to sell you something for $10, what's the fun if somebody else is going to offer it up and it's going to go for 50? There's people can't afford 50 or they don't want to pay 50, but they might pay 10. I would make way more money if I did everything offer up, even at this late night sale, because the handful of things that I'm selling, in some cases, there's more than one person that wants it, but I don't want to do that. Like I just said, if I said at the beginning of this chat, if I sell it to somebody who then ends up reselling it, I still think that's a win. I would much rather just flip things. I don't want to have to store them. And if I can turn around and sell something for $10 and you can turn around and sell it for 40 later, even if you want to do as an offer up, hey, knock yourself out. I just don't want to participate. But I know I've lost sales, like the whole thing with the chat. When I go into a chat, I'm like, oh, hey, I haven't seen that person in my sale in a long time. It's like I try to take it personally, but I know that some people really like auctions and I don't get it. So I think that I've got good items. No damage. Like my personal favorite is like I turn it into a drinking game. This is in perfect condition except for her head top was broken off and they glued it back on. Okay, that is by definition not perfect condition. So let's take a shot. I think I do good quality, whatever. And so it's particularly these later sales, the later night, like fewer people are participating. It's like, okay, this isn't fun anymore because now it's stuff that I love isn't selling. And it's like, okay, why am I doing this? So that's why tonight turned into a chat. I don't know why I just went down that path. I probably just offended a bunch of people, but I just, I don't do auctions because I don't think they're fun. And my channel should be about having fun. So, and if I go much longer, I'm always swearing. So I need to be, I don't want to put an explicit code on my, my video. So.
I don't do offer ups either. And I just find that even though they're good with the lag for some people, they're challenging to run. And I just don't like the challenges that come along with the just in case and all of that. It's a little bit too confusing. And I like the more fun element of just being able to try to get it. And I like, having prices that, people can all kind of feel like they can play along with and enjoy hanging out. And, when you have an offer up, you run into the whole chatting issue where people are trying to run the offer up and then you have people chatting, which is great because that's what we all do at the sales. We like to come hang out and have fun. But then you're suddenly making it harder to run the offer up because, all of the chat is in there. And I just don't like all of that other complications that go along with the offer up. So I don't personally do them on my channel. Again, nothing against them. If you want to do them on, on your own channel or with somebody else, it's totally fine. But I just personally don't do them. I like the set price sales, and it's a lot easier to keep track of that way and to have my little cards. I got to say, I love my little cards.
Yep. And I think what it goes back to, if that's the wrong one, is what Michelle was saying, is that it should go without saying, but I think you should consider it, is if you support the ones that you want to see succeed. And if there's sellers that you really like, and I'm not saying me, I mean, you guys were watching me at 1 o'clock in the morning, so thank you. But this isn't about me. This is the big picture. There are always going to be people that love to be on Jeffrey's sale because he's Jeffrey, and they're all going to be part of Misty's sale because it's Misty, and I get that. But then there's going to be, particularly when you're finding newer resellers, or when you're finding even sellers that have been around for a while but are still pulling moderate numbers. Think about that as you're watching those sales. At any given time, even when I used to have bigger numbers in my sales, only 20 or 30% would ever buy. It's so 70, 80% of the people watching were just watching for the fun. Be vocal, be in their chats, participate in conversations, maybe try and buy something if you want to buy something, but to encourage those. I've seen a lot of resellers have given up. A lot of Instagrammers have given up, and it's because they feel like, I don't know why I'm doing this. And it's just one of those cases that you need to give them a reason. And if you go into it, I mean, I'm sorry, I've been in sales, not as much recently because I don't have as much time, but I've been in sales during the day with some smaller channels. There was one time I was the only person in the sale. I felt like I couldn't hang up because I'd already said hi. So they knew I was there. And so they kept talking, and they're like, "Hey, Patrick, do you want to see this?" Not really, but I guess I will. It's like, I'm not talking to them. It's all through chat, but it's like, I bought stuff just because I kind of felt sorry for them, but you can't always do that. And you can't feel sorry for someone who doesn't deserve your patronage. So it's like, figure out who you like, figure out who you think should be successful, share their sales, share their information, talk them up with a bunch of friends, if, whatever, or what you like about different sales or different, whatever. Be supportive, because sometimes we need that. YouTube is, for as social as it is, can be very isolating.
Yes.
There's this fantasy that we're all making big bucks. Trust me, none of us, well, some people are, but most of us are not making big bucks. Yes, I do make money off the videos you show or that you watch. My last video had something like 250 views. I probably made $1. This is not what people do to make money. So it's it's hard when you put a lot of work into a video, you put a lot of work into a collab, and it doesn't get viewed or supported. It's like, well, then why am I doing this? So just keep that in mind. If you really like something, even just a private message saying, "Hey, I really like that last video you did." It doesn't have to be public if you're shy or whatever. You can do it privately. It's something to keep those people going and give them a reason to be like, okay, you know what? I'm not making, nobody does it to make the money, but it's there has to be something that they enjoy. And it goes back to what tonight, I didn't want to do another sale because last week's sale I didn't enjoy. And I sold a bunch of stuff and I shipped it all out, but I didn't enjoy doing it. So it's kind of great, I made money, but I'm annoyed. So why am I doing it?
And
so
the best comments,
break it up.
The best comments are from people that say, "Wow, I learned something in that video," or, "Oh, I had something like that."
Love hearing that.
And you suddenly brought back that memory from when I was a kid that was so happy, or, whatever the case is, or someone shares something on Instagram and they don't have to, but they just, selflessly promote your channel because they really liked something that you did. Those kinds of things really do brighten your day, because I can spend hours editing a video, filming a video, and trying to get everything just right, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and I like the editing to be a certain way. I'm not anywhere near a professional editor or perfect. I don't claim to be, but I try to make it as quality of production as possible. And that takes a lot of time. And so it's nice when, even if you're not getting the big views, you're at least getting that one comment from someone that just makes your day.
Absolutely. And I do want to echo or go back to the comments, and Michelle responded to it, but I want to put the comment out here. Maybe we should zip it while an offer up is in progress. There's many different schools of thought. And Michelle even said that that's something that has been approached. Really what it boils back down to, in my opinion, I want to have fun in a live sale. I am infamous of not being able to follow the chat. Period. I have no idea, which is why Nate could make such a snarky comment earlier tonight. He thought I wouldn't have seen it. He didn't pay attention to the fact I'm not running a sale, so I can actually watch the chat
Yeah,
today.
you're getting better, Patrick.
Yeah, and I am trying to get better because I've recognized people like that, and people like to hear me, hear people say their names. It's like, I don't, not that I don't want to do that, but I also want to keep a sale going. And I have been in a sale, and the last time I ever participated in that person's sale was the time I got chastised because I was having a conversation in a chat about somebody asked me a question and I was responding. And I was told live on air, that is not why we were here. You guys are here to buy stuff from me. Don't be talking to Patrick. And it may have been theoretically sarcastic, but it was not given in a sarcastic tone. And I'm like, sorry, done. And I haven't been back since. So to me, the chats are fun. Like I said, 80% of the people, even when I was having over, I've never had the numbers that like Misty or Jeffrey have. And I wouldn't want to. My God, I can't watch the chat now. How would I do it with that? But I used to regularly get over 100 people in my live sales. And I can't keep up with all that conversation. But 80% of the people that would be in my chat would never buy, because I would typically only ship like 20 to 30 items from a sale. So by definition, if I have over 100, 70% at most, or at least were not buying, they were there to have fun. And I thought everyone was having fun. But, then other sales came up. There's so much more competition. And I recognize that's what's hurt my numbers more than anything. But if you're in a sale, I don't want to be told to be quiet because there's an offer up going on. To be perfectly 100% honest, and I've told this to resellers directly, when you start an offer up, I leave, period. Like, it doesn't even matter what you're offering up. You could be offering up a 19th century salt glazed stoneware collection. I will turn it off, because that's not why I'm watching a live chat on YouTube. I have a full-time job and I do all this other stuff. I don't have a lot of time to watch a sale or anything. And if I'm going to watch it, I want to be watching. I'm going to be having fun. And I'm not going to have fun if somebody's chastising me for talking in a chat, or if it's all about the numbers and people are trying to figure out who was the just in case and all that. That's boring as hell. If I'm not going to buy it, I don't want to watch it. So that's me.
The chat kind of carries you through the items that you may not be interested in, so I like having the live chat, and it's kind of like you're getting to see your friends in the chat, and you go and hang out. Like Pam's sale is excellent, as well as Patrick's sale, because you can just come and hang out. You're not.
You didn't offend. I'm sorry.
Anything.
I just saw this. You didn't offend. Marianne, there was nothing that you weren't the one that told me to shut up. So that wasn't you. And no, that's why I brought your comment, because it's worth saying. Yep. It's not an offensive thing. It's a real concern that it's like, okay, here's the problem. How do you solve it? And one of the solutions is then causing another problem. So that's why I just don't do offer ups. So,
and that's happened to me. I came into a chat one time and the seller said, "Oh, well, there's Katie," and everyone's saying hello. And now we're not focusing on the sale. It's like, well, I'm sorry that I came into a chat and people said hello to me. I think the hellos are wonderful, and it's friendly that we all do that, and we all know each other well enough. I just think that's so cool that people from all over the country that haven't met each other in person but see each other all the time in the chats are like, "Hey, how you doing?" They're checking in on you and seeing how you are and saying hello in the chat. And I can't help it that I go into a chat and several people say hello. Like, I've been around the sales for a while, so people do sort of recognize my name. And I can't help that. But if you kind of tell me like, "Oh, you're causing a problem," it doesn't make me want to stay in the chat. So when you tell people,
when there's 20 other things you could be doing with your time right at that
moment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so we went on a really weird rabbit hole.
Yeah, we did.
But the point is, going back, it's support those. And this like Michelle's comment is a little bit more specific, but it's really support people with your pocketbook, or even, and I'm sorry, not even with your pocketbook, support people with your love. It could be nothing more than coming into a chat to say hi. It could be nothing more than dropping a comment on somebody's YouTube video. Trust me, I've tried it. Particularly when people are starting up, like 2 years ago, I did an entire month where I just co-partnered with tiny channels to try and let them do their first live sales. Now, I will say I find it fascinating that most of those channels won't give me the time of day now, but that's a whole other thing that I should not have just said that out loud. But it is what it is. Like, everyone has a different focus and everyone's going to be doing their own thing, but you can control how the positive reaction that anybody has. Comment on their videos. Like, I've commented positively on people's videos that they didn't even spell the title correctly, but I'll still find something nice to say, so it's because I want to encourage people, if I like them personally, but they're not a great editor. Okay, well, I'm not going to lie and say, oh my God, that's such a great, you edited your video so great. No, but I'll find something else nice to say because I want to be able to encourage them. And if somebody does a really good job, and I want to underscore that too, and figure out what people can continue to support. And I don't know, I just went down a really weird thing.
Just supporting people and being in the chat. Like Patrick said, you don't have to buy anything, but sometimes just coming in and saying hello means the world to someone because they're working hard, or maybe they're new to the sales and they're finally starting up a channel and doing a live sale, and you coming in and saying hello. And even, someone that doesn't have a channel, like just a buyer that is at a lot of the sales comes in. It's always exciting for that new seller to see them in the chat. It's like, wow, people are coming. I mean, that's even a small act that goes such a long way to some of the people. And just pick the people you enjoy and spend time there.
I've never been told that stuff. So I'm intrigued.
All the things you get when you're live on the
yes. I guess when I get bloodshot eyes, my nose looks better. So you never know. Anyway, I can't believe we've been doing this for 3 hours. I was planning on doing like an hour, but again, it's all, to me, it's all about having fun. And I did have fun doing this. I've always had fun hanging out with Katie. Everyone that's been in the chat, you guys have been so engaging and so much fun. But even this, we've got 39 people that are still here. There's no way 39 people have been commenting. So there's a bunch of people that are totally listening and just hanging out. And that's cool. Like, at some point, if you want to drop a note and say, oh, hey, I was on that live sale last night, but I was, I had it cast to my television because I couldn't, so I couldn't comment. Like, I do that a lot. But it's like, oh, I liked what you said about this, or you are horrible. I can't believe you said that about so-and-so. I am not beloved. I'm totally aware that there are people that have a very big problem with me. In some cases, I don't know why, but I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm just here, just hanging out. And there you go. Thanks, Brent. we just want to have fun.
It's all about fun.
Absolutely. That's like, life is too short. And I'm definitely at that age now where I just realized all used to be about how much money do I make? What's my title? What size house did I live in? What car did I drive? And I ended up in a marriage for 24 years that I shouldn't have been in. So I've got a reset button, and there's just a lot. Oh, there we go. Hello, professional lurker. Totally cool.
Hi, Ronnie.
I'm living a slightly different life. Unfortunately, COVID has just altered that too. But it's why I'm kind of like, whether it's because I'm a Libra or whatever, it is about balance. And we only have enough hours in the day. Do what makes you happy. And if you had fun here tonight, I'm thrilled. I'm like, there were a lot of people here, and I'm so happy that if we can put a smile on your face. That made me, guy gave me a comment. I wish I knew who it was. I think it might have been Cheryl. I think I went to bed. But I think she was the one that put a comment on my last YouTube video. She's like, you made me laugh many times during this video. And I'm just like, I can totally face my day now. Like, that just made me happy because I made somebody else smile. And trust me, I don't always do that. So it was like, I remember making the video, and I did put some snarky things in there. Sometimes people like my snarkiness.
I love your snarkiness.
I do tend to keep it into check, because usually when I get snarky, I also start swearing. So I can't do that. So I do tend to keep it into check, but it popped out in that last video, and she commented on it. And that just made me happy, because it was like, okay, somebody else gets my sense of humor. Trust me, there are many, many more who do not, and do not appreciate me. That's fine. We are not going to be all things to all people, but I appreciate, I'm not going to preach to the choir. I appreciate that you guys are all here with me tonight, and definitely appreciate Katie being here.
Absolutely.
Nate did not pop back in after his dinner to make another snide comment or for me to pick on him again. So I'll have to save that for later. So what do you got coming up in your channel? For those who are still sticking around, what do you got coming up on your channel, Katie?
fantastic, Patrick. It was just so much fun being part of this chat tonight. So make sure you tune in to the next duo dive, which actually won't be on my channel. It'll be on Patrick's channel. But we are having a vintage ephemera and advertising sale with Catherine Young. That will be this coming Wednesday right here on this channel at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I've got some fun content coming for you. I'm hoping to do a few more shop with me videos. I just put out one yesterday on my channel. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. And then Tales from the Triptych is not on my channel either, but it will be returning this coming Sunday at 8 p.m. And Nate, who was in the chat earlier, will be hosting it. And I'm really looking forward to that. So make sure you tune in to those events coming up soon.
Yes, excellent. So definitely subscribe to Katie for all of her notifications for when what she's got going live. Again, important because we had been missing the third part of the triptych for Sundays. So Nate is coming back. He had some scheduling issues previously, so we're back on track again. Because again, on a Sunday, that's his Monday. So it's like we're working against work hours. He will be back and he is hosting. So make sure you're subscribing to Soul Nate. Is the third part of the triptych, and his triptych on Sunday is about Stuart Devlin, who is a very gifted sterling silver artist, and he has some amazing pieces in his personal collection. And I guess Stuart Devlin also designed currency for many countries, so we'll also be looking at some of the art that was designed by Stuart Devlin for other for international currency. So nothing specifically special coming up on mine. I might be doing a shop with me, maybe a type of video. I will be hosting the triptych the week after Nate. So we're a ways off for some of those. But definitely on Wednesday, I'm the one hosting the next duo dive. That's between Katie and me. So join me for the duo dive on my channel, and Katie and Catherine. And again, that will be a relatively short sale. But it is 3 of us. So I think we're each going to have like 10 items. But that'll be the 3 of us on my channel next Wednesday, the 2nd at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm always trying to like mental math.
I know it gets confusing between the triptych and the duo.
Yes, exactly. And then plus now this one's even later. I used to do everything at 8 p.m. Eastern, and now things are like all over the place. So anyway, this will be the first time that we're doing a joint sale with Catherine, and Catherine is a definite specialist in ephemera as well. I love ephemera. Katie loves ephemera. So this is actually an advertising / ephemera sale. So definitely come and enjoy that as well. So thanks everyone for joining. Hope you did have fun. And check out all of our channels, check out all of our other content, and make sure you spread your love to those who you feel deserve it. So thanks again for all your time. Thanks for putting your trust in Trusty Huckster, and have a great night, everybody. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.